Chapter 1029. The Cloud Continent Muyun Villa. Bu Miaotian saw himself and the young Yi Wuhui in Sumo's formation. That was the first time he saw Yi Wuhui. He didn't know that Yi Wuhui was his bloodline. The purple wind chime moves with the wind and moves with it. It is a magic tool unique to Muyun Villa. It is only used to let the clansmen practice the Muyun movement technique. Only those who can cross the wind can chase the purple wind chime. Only those who can chase the chime at will can Muyun and become a true member of the Muyun Yi clan, Bu Miaotian said to little Yi Wuhui. Little Yi Wuhui looked at Bu Miaotian blankly and didn't say anything. Little boy, you are not a member of the Yi clan yet. Bu Miaotian sighed. The sigh had a different meaning in Bu Miaotian's ears. In fact, Bu Miaotian knew that the moment he saw Yi Wuhui, he didn't want to kill this little girl. It was an indescribable and inexplicable feeling. Perhaps it was because of the blood connection. Back then, he was giving himself a reason not to kill Yi Wuhui. Therefore, before he joined Muyun Villa, he excluded him from the Yi clan. Humph! Who are you? You? Little Yi Wuhui rolled his eyes at Bu Miaotian. Bu Miaotian smiled knowingly. He still remembered Yi Wuhui's appearance when he was a child. But Bu Miaotian didn't say anything. They couldn't see the real Bu Miaotian, but he could see them clearly. Little princess. At this time, a young girl in Sian, who looked like a maid, had already stood in front of Yi Wuhui. Little Yi Wuhui was persuaded to go back. It was a 7th-layer sky, immortal female cultivator. Purple-robed Bu Miaotian didn't waste any words, nor did she do anything superfluous. Muyun Villa's grand formation could not stop him at all. He directly advanced. The green-clothed servant girl wanted to cry out, but there was no sound. Her face revealed fear, and then she directly turned into a bloody mist. A 7th-stage sky mortal was nothing but an ant. Muyun, I'm back. I have never forgotten the oath I made back then. Not a single member of the Yi clan shall be spared. Bu Miaotian watched as she headed straight for Muyun Villa and listened to her own self-righteous vow. However, his current mood was completely different from before. He knew that every member of the Yi family that Bu Miaotian was about to kill was actually a member of the Bu family. Dark supremacy, what is the meaning of all this? Bu Miaotian asked in her mind. Did Wuhui tell you all this? Because other than Yi Wuhui, Bu Miaotian could not think of anyone else who could tell Sumo everything, and then Sumo manifested everything. Bu Miaotian focused her mind. The blue light in his eyes intensified. In fact, he also had a pair of special eyes. His eyes could see through all the puppets in the various worlds, and many of them were real and fake. When he first came to Izang, he had once imitated Mutian Villa on Pure Earth Planet and built a Siyun Villa. Every puppet there could be mistaken for the real one. Therefore, Bu Miaotian wanted to see if there were any puppets in Sumo's illusory art. However, when he opened his blue eyes, everything he saw was exactly the same as before. Purple Mountain was still Purple Mountain, and Muyun was still Muyun. Even the back of the purple-clothed Bu Miaotian did not change at all. Dark supremacy, your illusory art has reached such a high level? Bu Miaotian gasped. He really did not expect Sumo to have cultivated illusory art to such an extreme level. So far, he had not found any flaws in the illusory formation. It was a completely perfect formation. Therefore, Bu Miaotian did not want to leave the formation for the time being, and he could not. He followed his former self and headed straight for Muyun Villa. Outside the villa, 3 figures lined up in a row. The 3 men were all dressed in black. Black guards. 1st layer original immortal realm. They were the outer guards of Muyun Villa. To be honest, Bu Miaotian could not remember what they looked like. They were only guards and should not be of his bloodline. However, Bu Miaotian felt that these 3 guards were the same 3 from back then. Whoosh, purple-clothed Bu Miaotian arrived in front of them. 1st layer original immortal realm was not worth mentioning before him. His long hair swayed slightly. Bumyaotian's gait did not change, but his originally drooping sleeves were gently rolled up. Swish, 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 swish. The three black guards attacked at the same time. Clink, clank, clank. Puft, puft, puft. Bumyaotian tapped his sleeves 3 times, and the 3 black guards were instantly sent flying. In the air, the 3 grunted at almost the same time. The immortal swords left their hands and fell into the bottomless abyss. The black clothes of the 3 black guards were torn, and their bodies turned into black mist. At that moment, Bumyaotian, who was watching the battle from behind, raised his brows again. Everything was a repeat of what had happened back then. The people from back then had not changed. Every movement and tone of voice was the same, and even the light from their spells was the same. In truth, Bumyaotian did not remember every detail. However, everything he saw seemed to awaken him. Everything from back then came rushing back at him. The moment the 3 black guards died, Bumyaotian was already close to the gate of Muyun Villa. Gray bricks, purple tiles, azure light diffused. Buildings stretched on endlessly, and purple mist curled around them. Muyun Villa had a transcendent and serene beauty. Outside the gate, Bumyaotian paused slightly, and so did Bumyaotian. However, Bumyaotian's and Bumyaotian's halting had different meanings behind them. Bumyaotian was both unfamiliar and familiar with Muyun Villa. There was a hint of hesitation in Bumyaotian's heart. Is everything in front of me really Su Mo's illusion? He wondered if he should follow his past self through the gate. Would he see all the killing again? However, he did not want to remember it. Whoosh, whoosh, however, at that moment the gate of Muyun Villa opened, and 2 white figures rushed out. One from the left and one from the right. They attacked Bumyaotian. Who dares to cause trouble in Muyun Villa? Muyun White Guards. 3rd layer Immortal Realm. They wielded silver spears and moved like dragons, but they could not harm Bumyaotian in the slightest. Crack, bang, bang, Bumyaotian's sleeves waved like 2 long whips. The 2 immortal spears were actually broken. At the same time, the remaining half of the spear rebounded and smashed toward the 2 white guards. Boom! The bodies of the 2 white guards were cut in half at the waist, and their immortal hearts shattered. Then, Bumyaotian stepped into the gate of Muyun Villa. The purple cloud under his feet dispersed, and he stomped lightly on the ground. Clang, clang, hum. At that moment, the sound of a bronze bell reverberated in the air. Muyun Villa had already issued a warning. Bumyaotian was slightly shocked when he heard the bell sound, because he suddenly thought of a possibility. At that moment, a dozen figures appeared in the first courtyard of Muyun Villa. 8 white guards surrounded a young master in black brocade robes. The man was tall, but he was not handsome. In fact, he was ugly. Yi Xingmu. It was Yi Wuhui's big brother. He was Bumyaotian's bloodline. At that moment, Bumyaotian was in a trance. Everything seemed to have passed in an instant. He only saw Bumyaotian break the cloud-shocking formation. Then, Bumyaotian's sleeve flew toward Yi Xingmu again. Boom! At that critical moment, a beam of black light descended from the sky and blasted the sleeve away. The crow deity is here. Young master, please retreat. The crow deity? Bumyaotian's eyes flashed blue. He saw a black-clothed puppet. A real puppet. His expression changed drastically. There was a puppet? Because it meant that everything in front of him was not an illusion. Chapter 1030. Bumyaotian's blue eyes flashed as his expression changed. The crow divinity. The undying crow divinity of the Yi clan. Both Bumyaotian and the others knew that this was a top-notch puppet of the 3 realms. It was an existence close to that of a divine puppet. However, divine puppets were still puppets. At this moment, the crow divinity appeared in Bumyaotian's blue eyes differently from the other cultivators. The crow divinity was a blue entity, while the other cultivators were a normal color. How could there be a difference between a puppet and a cultivator in an illusion? They should all be illusions. However, the crow divinity had appeared in the form of a puppet. This isn't an illusion? Bumyaotian thought to himself. However, this idea was immediately rejected by him. He knew that the true essence of illusion techniques was to make the victim feel that everything was real and not an illusion. If he felt that everything was real, then he was entering this state. This was the state of entering an illusion. Therefore, Bumyaotian immediately began to control his mind. This was all an illusion. He kept telling himself that. At this moment, cold sweat appeared on Bumyaotian's forehead. In front of him, Bumyaotian was already fighting the crow divinity. The crow divinity doesn't die. The crow divinity doesn't die. Bumyaotian laughed coldly. Actually, the crow divinity is the joke of the Yi clan. Today, take a look at the so-called crow divinity of the Yi clan. Whoosh, whoosh, Bumyaotian advanced instead of retreating. He waved his sleeve and met the crow divinity head-on. The two people's moves were quite similar. Two long sleeves, one black and one purple, directly collided. Boom, bang, immortal light scattered and spiritual chi scattered. The black sleeve retreated while the purple sleeve charged forward. The crow divinity was naturally no match for Bumyaotian. The crow divinity retreated, but the purple sleeve did not retreat. That purple sleeve was like an endless purple wave, endlessly powerful. Chi, chi, chi. The crow divinity's black sleeve could not withstand it and was already showing signs of tearing. Bumyaotian laughed coldly to himself. The flowing cloud godly sleeve was his secret technique. How could a puppet obtain its essence? Boom, Bumyaotian's attack was even stronger. The black-robed crow divinity's slender body retreated. Half of his sleeve was already torn. Bumyaotian did not give the crow divinity any chance to breathe. Once he entered, he raised his purple sleeves again. The crow deity reluctantly flicked his black sleeve to parry. Chi-chi, poo, bang. The purple light dissipated the black light, and a cloud of black mist dissipated. The crow deity's black sleeve was completely destroyed by the purple-robed Bumyaotian. At the same time, the crow deity was still retreating, and the purple-robed Bumyaotian followed closely behind. Boom, crack, rumble. The crow deity retreated to the entrance of the second courtyard. There was nowhere to hide. The purple sleeve that flew over was like a purple rainbow, piercing down from the sky with great force. For a time, dust and smoke rose in all directions, and wood and stones flew everywhere. Bumyaotian watched from behind with furrowed brows. In fact, he knew the final outcome. Back then, he had destroyed the crow divinity. However, he had wanted to see the flaws in Sumo's illusions. However, everything in front of him was a replay of the past. There was not the slightest difference. At least, Bumyaotian didn't see any difference. Undying crow divinity. Haha. Ye family's monster, show yourself. At this moment, the purple-robed Bumyaotian laughed. Purple flames soared and shot toward the crow divinity. Black smoke rose from within the purple flames. The crow divinity's black robe and mask were instantly incinerated. However, no screams could be heard. Within the purple flames was, of course, a wooden man. The dark brown wooden man had a slender body and arms like tree branches. Its face was covered in ancient runes, and its eyes could not be seen. Bumyaotian looked at the runes, and his eyes narrowed. At this moment, he was sure that Sumo was not using his own soul. Because even Bumyaotian couldn't accurately replicate the ancient runes on the crow divinity's face. He hadn't paid attention to the crow divinity's runes at all. When he looked again, the purple-robed Bumyaotian suddenly stretched out a hand and grabbed the crow divinity's abdomen. The hand was made of ghastly white bones, with no flesh to be seen. Because back then, the soulless Taoist and the crow divinity had shared the same bone body. The white bones glowed brighter than immortal swords. Crack, goo-goo. The crow divinity made a strange sound, and its two withered branch-like arms spun rapidly like drills. Bang! The two arms flew out of its body and stabbed toward the purple-robed Bumyaotian. At the same time, the crow divinity woodman's abdomen opened, and thousands of flying needles flew toward the purple-robed man like a fine rain. Those flying needles were not ordinary. A flying needle was comparable to an immortal sword. However, the purple-robed Bumyaotian didn't even move. However, the white bony claw that came out of the purple sleeve suddenly changed direction and circled to the crow divinity woodman's back like a bolt of white lightning. Crack! The white bony claw grabbed a protrusion on the crow divinity woodman's back and slammed down. Crack, crack, crack. The crow divinity woodman made a series of noises, and its wood drooped. The crow divinity woodman had wanted to defend by attacking, but it seemed to have been struck in its weak spot. However, the arms and flying needles did not stop. Humph! The purple-robed Bumyaotian snorted. If it weren't for him, everyone would have died at the hands of the crow divinity. Because the crow divinity was only an illusion. When he looked again, the white bony claw suddenly turned back and grabbed the crow divinity woodman's abdomen. That was the puppet's key. Puff! A puff of black smoke dissipated, and the runes on the crow divinity's face gradually faded. That represented the puppet's death. Bang! The two arms in the air instantly turned to black ash, and the flying needles were all collected by the purple-robed Bumyaotian. The crow divinity puppet stood there dejectedly, like a withered tree, completely devoid of life. Whoosh, whoosh. The expressions of the four middle-aged cultivators who had come out of the third courtyard changed drastically, and they moved almost at the same time. This was the strongest force in Unveil apart from the Yi family's forefather. They were all Yi Xingmu's fathers, and they rarely left the backyard. Their leader was the previous master of the Unveil, Yi Luyun. To the outside world, the Yi family claimed that he had died a long time ago. Ha ha ha. The purple-robed Bumyaotian threw her head back and laughed, ready to start a massacre. Once these four died, the Unveil would surely collapse. Bumyaotian had indeed been crazy back then. Bumyaotian, on the other hand, was in a dilemma. This was because he increasingly felt that all of this was real and not an illusion. Sumo hadn't appeared even once since they had entered the formation. The world in front of him seemed real. Bumyaotian turned around. He actually wanted to leave. Because he didn't want to see himself bathe Unveil in blood. At this moment, the people standing behind him were actually his descendant. Yi Luyun and Yi Xingmu both had his blood on them, and they were all being slaughtered by his past self. Bumyaotian clenched his fists tightly, then loosened them. Whoosh! He forced himself to take deep breaths. He told himself that it was all in the past, that it was all an illusion. Behind him, the purple-robed Bumyaotian's body glowed with boundless purple light. We are of the same root, why bother torturing each other? Soulless Taoist, are you an avenger? Bumyaotian heard the words of an old woman behind him. He knew that it was the voice of the Yi family's forefather, Qin Yi. The daughter of the Qing family, the daughter-in-law of the Yi family. In fact, Bumyaotian had not only wronged the Yi family, but also the Qing family. Bumyaotian couldn't help but take a deep breath. At this moment, he finally heard Sumo's cold voice. Bumyaotian, this is your last chance. Otherwise, Unveil will be bathed in blood again. Chapter 1031. Bumyaotian, this is your last chance. Otherwise, the Unveil would be flooded with blood. Sumo's words suddenly echoed in Bumyaotian's ears. Nether Lord? Where are you? Bumyaotian's divine sense suddenly spread out. However, he could only sense that he couldn't detect Sumo's existence in the three realms. Sumo's voice seemed to resound in his heart. Bumyaotian's expression changed slightly. The current situation was indeed somewhat beyond his imagination. Behind him, there were incessant battle cries. Qin Yi had already summoned 7 puppets, while the purple-robed Bumyaotian had summoned 7 bone puppets. Of the 2 eye sockets of each skeleton puppet, one was suffused with a green flame, while the other was suffused with a purple flame. Azure and purple skeleton puppets, they were the nemesis of the Qing family's puppets. Such a spell had long been extinct in the 3 realms, and only the purple-robed Bumyaotian could use it. None of the cultivators in Mu Tian Villa were a match for the purple-robed Bumyaotian. Bumyaotian knew the outcome. Puff, puff, the purple-robed Bumyaotian turned. The hearts of the two eternal realm cultivators were pierced by her sleeve. Their corpses exploded, and flesh and blood flew everywhere. Bang, bang. The other two eternal realm cultivators, including the former head of the Muyin Villa, Yi Luyun, had their heads crushed by the bone claws. Blood stained the bluestone, and their hearts scattered. At that moment, the Yi family members seemed to be scared out of their wits. None of them had thought that the eternal realm cultivators, who could shake the three realms with a stomp of their feet, would fall just like that. But that was the way of the world. Although Bumyaotian's back was facing everything, she didn't need to look to know what had happened. Strength and weakness were relative. The weak would always be vulnerable in front of the strong, no matter what level they were at. Bumyaotian knew that the purple-robed Bumyaotian had killed 4 more of her bloodline. Kill. The purple-robed Bumyaotian's heart was burning with rage, and her killing intent rose. She raised a hand and summoned a beam of purple light that attacked the Yi family members who were watching the battle from the second courtyard. Yi Muyun, do you see this? Blood flowed like a river in the Muyin Villa. That was the voice of the former Bumyaotian. Under the purple light, a murderous aura surged. However, Bumyaotian felt a prickling sensation on his back. Behind him was a bloody murderous aura. He really wanted to leave. This was an illusion, an illusion. This was Su Mo's technique. Because everything had passed and could not be changed. However, he still couldn't take a step forward. At the same time, he restrained himself from turning around. He was in a dilemma. Bang, boom, in the Muyin Villa, Bumyaotian's long sleeve hit the white-haired old woman's chest. Bang, puff, the green robe scattered like a butterfly. The white-haired old woman spat out a mouthful of blood before falling heavily into the second courtyard. Her entire body was covered in a layer of jet-black armor. Ebony divine armor. The dowry of the Qing family. Bumyaotian clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles turned white. Previously, he had always thought that the Yi family and Qing family owed him. However, he now knew that he owed the Yi family and the Qing family. All the hatred he felt was just his imagination. Yi Muyun had never let him down, but he had let Yi Muyun down. He also owed the Qing family. Back then, after massacring the Muyin Villa, King Mu asked him if he regretted it. He replied, "King Mu, why should I regret it? If I do, how can we become soulless and Taoist people? Even if I kill my own bloodline, I, Bumyaotian, will never regret it. Never regret." Therefore, he named the little princess of the Yi family Wu Hui, who would know whether or not he regretted his decision in the end. Besides, not regretting it didn't mean that he wouldn't choose again if he had the chance. Bumyaotian was in such a state of mind at the moment. Would he watch his past self slaughter his own bloodline again, or would he stop it from happening? He was struggling. Inside the villa, 2 figures appeared. Bumyaotian knew that they were the last 2 ancestors of the Yi family. They were 2 old men in green and black who looked like withered trees. Their appearance indicated that Bumyaotian's massacre was about to begin. Bumyaotian's blue eyes were already somewhat bloodshot. He knew that if he tried to stop it, he would completely fall into Sumo's illusion. That was what Sumo wanted. Sumo was tormenting him and deepening the demon in his heart. Tens of thousands of years have passed. Even the ancient sites in the 3 realms have changed beyond recognition. Many things of the past have turned into dust and dissipated. The old people are all gone. Who is right and who is wrong is meaningless. Senior, why are you so stubborn? The Yi family's ancestral teaching, Mu Yun, has indeed wronged Miaotian. Senior, we are willing to die and never be reincarnated in exchange for the lives of the other members of the Yi family. Senior, the Yi family's ancestral teaching states that if Senior comes, we are not allowed to resist. Senior, please spare some of the Yi family's bloodline for old time's sake. At this moment, Bumyaotian's divine sense seemed to be a bit blurry. The voices of the two ancestors of the Yi family clearly reached his ears. They knelt in front of Bu Miaotian and begged. At that moment they were sincere. They wouldn't resist, but they didn't want Bu Miaotian to kill them all. However, Bu Miaotian didn't move at all. However, those words were like knives stabbing into Bu Miaotian's heart. In fact, at this moment, he didn't understand why he had such hatred in the past. Where did this hatred come from? At this moment, Bu Miaotian's body shook. Miaotian, wait! He seemed to hear a woman's tender voice. Mu Yun. Bu Miaotian looked up at the 4 purple cloud ancient seals in the air above the villa. However, they were still there. In the past, a wisp of Yi Mu Yun's divine sense was sealed inside. If he washed the villa with blood and destroyed the ancient seals, the seal would be opened. However, it hadn't been opened yet. However, Bu Miaotian heard it clearly. An illusion. Bu Miaotian's eyes were blood-red. At this moment, he didn't dare to confirm how powerful Sumo's technique was. That was because every moment seemed to strike at his heart. However, Bu Miaotian didn't know that Sumo actually didn't do anything. Sumo never spoke, nor did she manipulate Yi Mu Yun's voice. At this moment, Sumo was just watching everything quietly from another space and time. She was neither sad nor happy. Those voices were all Bu Miaotian's imagination. Sumo only did what she needed to do and left the rest to Bu Miaotian. Ha ha ha! Inside the villa, Bu Miaotian didn't seem to hear the 2 Yi ancestors' pleas. Her aura didn't diminish, and a purple ribbon flew out like a dragon. Boom! Dozens of Yi clan members, regardless of gender, were sent flying and died in pools of blood. It was a gruesome sight. It was a massacre. Ah, roar! Screams rang out incessantly. Sacred ancestor, Yi Xingmu's eyes were blood-red. However, he was sealed and couldn't mobilize his original immortal energy. At this moment, he was just an ordinary cultivator. Those who resist. You are no longer a member of the Yi clan. The azure-clothed ancestors' words sent all the Yi clan members into despair. It's better to die in glory than to live in dishonor. Sacred ancestor, the true members of the Yi clan won't live without purpose. Yi Xingmu's brows furrowed. He reached into his storage pouch and took out an immortal sword. Puff! The immortal sword turned around and stabbed straight at his immortal heart. He could die, but he had to die with dignity. Xingmu, big brother, young master, shouts rang out inside the villa. Whoosh! Last time, Yi Xingmu collapsed in a pool of blood. However, this time, a ray of purple light struck the immortal sword in his hand. Bu Miaotian had already turned around. He had saved Yi Xingmu. He couldn't let history repeat itself. Sumo, who was outside of space and time, couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Bu Miaotian was saving himself. Chapter 1032. Many people in the multiverse were actually trying to save themselves. That was because the only thing they could rely on and save them were themselves. Bu Miaotian's purple light seemed to have saved Yi Xingmu. But in reality, he had saved himself. He had been conflicted about whether to leave or turn around. Was it an illusion or reality? In truth, once one reached the Lotus Realm, their knowledge far surpassed that of ordinary cultivators. The Lotus Realm was a qualitative leap. They had long since broken the fixed concept of space and time. They had a different understanding of reality and illusion compared to ordinary cultivators. No matter how real the world before him seemed, Bu Miaotian did not believe it was real. Because he knew that everything was over. But he could not overcome his heart. Regardless of whether it was real or fake, he did not want to see himself slaughter his own bloodline again. In fact, the moment he made his move, it was enough to show Bu Miaotian's rejection of his past self. Whether he regretted it or not, it was no longer important. Bu Miaotian made a new choice. At that moment, he felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. When he looked again, the purple-robed Bu Miaotian slowly turned around as if to look at him. However, Bu Miaotian's face was only a cloud of purple mist, completely expressionless. He did not know if Bumiaotian was looking at him. Whoosh! The purple-robed Bumiaotian gently shook his head, then turned into purple smoke and disappeared with the wind. Bumiaotian was slightly taken aback. At the same time, he realized that the people in Muyun Villa still did not see him. This was because Yi Xingmu, Qin Yi, and the two patriarchs were looking around in confusion. They did not seem to know what had happened. "He's gone," someone in Muyun Villa said. At that moment, the other people in the villa felt like they had just woken up from a dream. The two ancestors looked at each other blankly, their eyes filled with endless sorrow and joy. They couldn't see Bumiaotian, and they didn't know why the purple-robed Bumiaotian suddenly disappeared. However, they knew that the remaining people in Muyun Villa had survived. After surviving a calamity, they had mixed feelings. The people of the Muyun Villa let out cries of sorrow and joy. Then, led by the two ancestors, they knelt in the courtyard and kowtowed 9 times to the words Mu Yun of the 3 realms, because they believed that it was the ancestral master's protection. At that moment, Bumiaotian also looked up at the 4 ancient characters, but no one knew what she was thinking. However, he seemed to see Yi Muyun's figure floating in the air, smiling sweetly at him. "Mu Yun," Bumiaotian murmured softly. "Miao Tian." Yi Muyun seemed to be waving at him. "Mu Yun." Bumiaotian flew toward Yi Muyun. However, as soon as he got up, the Mu Yun villa in front of him flew away from him at a rapid speed. Bumiaotian was a lotus warrior, so he immediately chased after him. However, his lotus warrior's speed could not keep up with Muyun Villa's speed. His footsteps did not stop, nor did the passing of Muyun Villa. Bumiaotian saw the Yi family clean up the mess, saw Muyun Villa rise again, and even saw Yi Wuhui become an eternal realm cultivator. However, he could not catch up with Muyun Villa, and it was getting further and further away until it completely disappeared. Whoosh! Bumiaotian finally stopped. His forehead was covered in sweat. He did not know how long he had been chasing after it. However, he failed. Only now did he realize what had happened. He had forgotten that he was in Sumo's formation. Everything was an illusion. Then, he saw black waves under his feet, which seemed to be the same as when he stepped into Sumo's formation. Not far away, he saw Sumo again. However, there seemed to be a shallow strait between him and Sumo, neither too far nor too close. That strait seemed to be white. The seawater there was different from the seawater under his feet. Dark supreme. Bumiaotian calmed himself down, then looked at Sumo and said, "I got out of your illusory formation." "Ha." Sumo looked at Bumiaotian and shook her head. "Bumiaotian, you are ridiculous. First, I did not set up any illusory formation at all. Second, you have been in the formation all this time." "What do you mean?" Bumiaotian asked. "What you saw was not an illusion at all," Sumo said. "Ha." Bumiaotian looked at Sumo and sneered. "Dark Supreme, do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Illusions are born from the heart. You know my past, borrow my soul, and weave it into an illusion. Otherwise, how could you reproduce everything? It's just that your illusion technique is indeed brilliant. I could not bear to see it again, so I stopped it." "Ha ha." Sumo shook her head. "Bumiaotian, you are too conceited. You have always been like this. I said it was not an illusion, so it was not an illusion. Look." With that, Sumo waved a hand, and the black seawater beneath Bumiaotian's feet began to churn. A multicolored forbidden painting suddenly appeared. A forbidden painting? Bumiaotian's expression changed slightly. In all the realms, Wang Ju's forbidden painting was a supreme immortal art, and Amu had the forbidden time. However, the Dark Supreme did not know the forbidden painting art. "Amu taught me the forbidden painting art." Sumo saw through Bumiaotian's doubts. "I have the forbidden reincarnation. So, everything you saw before was real. Because I sent you back to the 3 realms. What you saw was not my illusion, but you were in the original spacetime." "Impossible!" Bu Miaotian shook her head violently. Nothing can be changed. The Yi family members of Muyun Villa are all dead. Bu Miaotian, you are avoiding your inner demons. The corners of Sumo's mouth curved. Has anyone ever told you that everything in this world is actually a ray of light? Everything that we have experienced is just a thread in the light. Previously, I had only placed you in a different timeline. So, you saw everything. If you didn't act just now, I would have waited for you to kill them again. So, you made the right choice, Sumo said. Bu Miaotian looked at Sumo with a blank look in his eyes. He had never seen Nan Yuan, and no one had ever told him such a theory. Dark Supreme, you can put me in a different space-time? Of course. Sumo sneered. If you don't believe me, look. With that, Sumo's hand seal changed. The sea of forbidden maps rippled and instantly surged. Bu Miaotian felt everything in front of him suddenly change. When he looked again, he found himself in a house. The house was antique and elegant. Miaoyun Residence. This was the former home of Bu Miaotian and Yi Moon. Bu Miaotian had never imagined that Su Mo would be able to send her here. At this moment, he believed that Sumo's formation was not an illusion. At this moment, he saw another him in an exquisite black robe, walking hurriedly. The black-robed Bu Miaotian's expression was gloomy, his brows tightly locked. Bu Miaotian couldn't remember what day it was. However, when the black-robed Bu Miaotian pushed open the door, he saw Yi Muyun crying on Senior Brother Qing's shoulder. Senior Brother Qing was patting Yi Muyun's shoulder to comfort him. At this moment, Bu Miaotian's expression suddenly changed. Originally, it was because he couldn't become a venerable that his inner demons had formed. Now, he seemed to see the dirtiest scene in the world. Bu Miaotian didn't say anything and turned to leave. Miaotian! Yi Muyun shouted. However, Bu Miaotian didn't even look back. However, Bu Miaotian already knew everything. So, he immediately stood in front of Bu Miaotian. Then, he waved his hand. Bang! The black-robed Bu Miaotian was pushed back. She is pregnant with your flesh and blood. Bu Miaotian sighed heavily. This sentence naturally entered the black-robed Bu Miaotian's ears. The black-robed Bu Miaotian was stunned. Because he felt the power and heard the voice, but he didn't see anything. At this moment, Yi Muyun and Senior Brother Qing had already caught up. Whoosh, whoosh, everything in front of him faded away once again. Bu Miaotian saw the black-robed Bu Miaotian turn around, saw him embrace Yi Muyun, saw him become a venerable. However, Bu Miaotian didn't give chase, because he knew he couldn't catch up. Chapter 1033. There were many things that were lost and could never be looked back. Bu Miaotian sighed as he watched everything disappear into the distance. If what Sumo said was true, then he had changed a ray of light. But that ray of light was not the present. Whoosh, whoosh, the waves of the forbidden map surged under his feet. At this moment, he looked up and saw Sumo again. Sumo was still separated from him by a white strait. Nether Sovereign, what is the point of showing me all this? Bu Miaotian asked. To break your inner demons. Sumo said. Break my inner demons? Bu Miaotian shook his head with a bitter smile. Those two past are indeed two demons in my heart. But you are trying to break my inner demons. Bu Miaotian, one wrong step leads to many wrong steps, Sumo said. You are wrong, but you refuse to repent. Now, I will show you that everything can be changed in another spacetime. Why do you have to be so wrong? In a different spacetime, Bu Miaotian and Yi Muyun are still alive, and many members of the Yi clan are still alive. Everything you've seen is true. Bu Miaotian was silent. Although you can no longer turn back in this timeline, because you will never be able to catch up, Su Mo said in a deep voice. But now, you have given up on yourself and become a Black Lotus Eagle Hound. But now, you have abandoned yourself and become a Black Lotus Eagle Hound. Bu Miaotian was stunned, because he didn't quite understand what Su Mo meant. Then, he saw Sumo's hand seal change. Countless runes rose from Sumo's body. At the same time, the sea of forbidden maps under Bumyaotian's feet surged. Each wave was a world, and each world was a past. The sea of forbidden maps was filled with endless waves. Moreover, countless bubbles flew out of the waves. Each bubble contained an image. This was the real beginning of Sumo's illusion art. Countless bubbles, countless Yimayans, countless unveils, and countless past. Nan Yuan said that everything in this world was a mass of light. Now, Sumo seemed to have brought Bumyaotian's mass of light in front of him. There were thousands of possibilities. Countless rays of light exploded in front of him. Countless purple-clothed Bumyaotian rushed into the unveil, while countless black-clothed Bumyaotian turned around and left. At that moment, Bumyaotian was powerless to stop all of this. But in his heart, he wanted to stop it. This was because he couldn't bear to see another bloody massacre, and he couldn't bear to see history repeat itself. However, he did not have the ability to change millions of worlds. Bumyaotian moved quickly, but he could not keep up with the speed of the bubbles. The bubbles on the forbidden map sea were like dandelions, scattering endlessly. No, no, Bumyaotian shouted, her eyes bloodshot. However, he could only change a few things. In most of the bubbles, the black-clothed Bumyaotian left in a fit of anger, and the purple-clothed Bumyaotian dyed the unveil with blood. Why? Bumyaotian looked up to the sky and shouted, Dark Lord, you gave me hope, and then you let me see all the destruction. However, no matter how Bumyaotian shouted, he didn't see Sumo again. He had woken up, and the strait was gone. In fact, Sumo was only standing a few thousand feet in front of him. He formed a seal with his hands and looked coldly at Bumyaotian. The forbidden map sea floated in front of Sumo. He had indeed used the seal of samsara to send Bumyaotian back to the past twice. However, everything was an illusion now. Even Sumo couldn't capture millions of worlds. Most importantly, he had given Bumyaotian 2 real worlds before this. The real and the fake had become one. Bumyaotian was walking toward another kind of destruction in the process of redemption. Sumo could only sigh at Bumyaotian. The genius of the 3 realms had a rough fate. However, at this moment, Sumo didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. Bumyaotian screamed crazily in the forbidden map sea, as if no one was around. In fact, the entire forbidden map sea was only a few dozen miles long. However, Bumyaotian's world was an endless ocean. He moved left and right, up and down. He was constantly stopping countless versions of himself. At that moment, Bumyaotian was like a crazy clown. However, he didn't think so. He would rather die of exhaustion than try his best to stop everything. Because he couldn't accept this. I can't accept this. Bumyaotian screamed at the sky. Nether supremacy, I can't accept this. He wanted to redeem himself again and again. Sins committed by heaven can be forgiven, but sins committed by oneself cannot be forgiven. Sumo looked coldly at Bumyaotian. Genius of the 3 realms, today is the day you die. Whoosh, Sumo made another seal with his hands. The forbidden map sea shrank rapidly. In an instant, it was only 1,000 feet wide. At this moment, the 9 peak stage supremacies in the distance seemed to tremble slightly. Their eyes suddenly lit up with brilliance. They could sense Bumyaotian's final struggle. Sumo's lips curved imperceptibly. At the same time, his forbidden map sea shrank again. It was only 300 feet wide. Whoosh, when he looked again, all the forbidden paintings suddenly flipped up. The 300 feet wide forbidden map sea was like a giant net that was beginning to close. It rose in all directions, trying to completely envelop Bumyaotian. However, Bumyaotian didn't notice it at all. He was completely immersed in Sumo's illusion. Sumo's lips curved into a cold smile. He had previously said that he would clean up the 3 realms. Whoosh, Sumo clenched his fist in the air. Boom, whoosh, the forbidden map sea shrank for the last time. It was completely in the shape of a pocket with a circular mouth on top. Chapter 1034. The gray-robed Taoist was as thin as a stick. His cheeks were sunken and devoid of flesh. His face looked like a dried corpse. The Taoist's robe was loose, giving the impression that he was only a skeleton under it. The Taoist walked slowly, but every step he took seemed to be on a special node, causing the special barrier to fluctuate. This day seemed to be his. An advanced lotus night. Sumo could not help but raise an eyebrow. This was because he could not see the other party's realm. This meant that the Taoist was at least a fifth-layer lotus realm. This was the person behind Bumiaotian. The gray-robed Taoist did not speak and only walked forward slowly. He walked very slowly. Miaotian, it seems that the gap between you and him is huge. The Taoist raised his hand and withdrew his horsetail whisk. He looked at Bumiaotian and said, "You've cultivated with me for so many years in vain. I'm useless." Bumiaotian's eyes were gloomy. Sumo looked at Bumiaotian and his heart sank. "Everything is like light, that's right," the Taoist said again, "but how can you change their trajectory? You just have to walk the path of light under your feet." "I understand." Bumiaotian nodded slowly. "Step aside." The Taoist gently flicked his horsetail whisk and helped Bumiaotian up. He then said to Sumo in a cold voice, "The Demon King of the Three Realms is indeed extraordinary. I can't believe you defeated the genius of the Three Realms so easily." Sumo laughed coldly. "How can someone from the Three Realms be my match? Besides, he's not the real Bumiaotian anymore." "Oh." The Taoist's eyes turned cold, and then he said meaningfully, "Demon King, your words are very interesting. The corpse Taoist, you're also very interesting." Sumo's words were also full of mystery. The gray-robed Taoist frowned. "You know me?" "I've heard of you," Sumo said. "The corpse Taoist is the founding master of the corpse sect. I heard that your puppetry technique is extremely exquisite, even comparable to Bumiaotian's. However, from the looks of it now, not only was it not inferior, it was far above him. Otherwise, how could you turn him into a puppet?" Bumiaotian just bowed her head slightly and said nothing. His eyes had turned completely gray. He didn't seem to hear Sumo's words. Taoist corpse's expression changed, and then he sneered, "Demon King, you are indeed worthy of being the cultivator who killed the second swordsman. You are indeed extraordinary. To tell you the truth, my puppet is no different from a human. I just want to know how you saw that he was already a puppet." "A feeling." Sumo's lips curled up. "Feeling?" Taoist corpse shook his head. This reason was too vague. "Taoist corpse, you're not a cultivator of the Three Realms, so naturally, you don't truly understand them. Therefore, everything you've instilled into Bumiaotian's soul has a huge flaw." "What flaw?" Taoist corpse-less asked. "The Three Realms," Sumo said slowly. "Oh." Taoist corpse looked at Sumo in confusion. "I believe that the cultivators of the Three Realms will not become the lackeys of the Black Lotus sect and come to deal with the people of the Three Realms. Even if they have suffered endless hardships in the Three Realms," Sumo said with certainty, "their roots will always be in the Three Realms." "Why are you so confident?" Taoist corpse asked. "Because I once ruled the Three Realms. When I look at them, it's like I'm looking at my palm lines." Sumo said, "Although Bumiaotian is extreme and resolute, he will never betray the Three Realms and join forces with you." "Then, what you said before was for me to hear," Taoist corpse said gloomily. "That's right." Sumo nodded. "I heard that you took Bumiaotian away and suppressed him in the other realm, but I wasn't sure if you were behind him. So, you used the true-false illusory array to force him to go crazy so that I would show up." Taoist corpse smiled faintly. "Fortunately, I'm a sentimental person. Otherwise, wouldn't Bumiaotian have died in your hands? Sentimental? Ha!" Sumo shook her head disdainfully. "Taoist corpse, I think you should be called Taoist shameless." Instead of saying that you're sentimental, you should say that Bu Miaotian is your most important puppet. I don't think you can find a puppet like him in all the realms. He's definitely a unique existence. Ha ha ha! Corpseless Taoist laughed out loud. Demon Monarch, you really see through everything. Bu Miaotian is indeed unique as a puppet. It's hard to find one in all the realms. Unfortunately, you're someone Lord Wang wants to kill. Otherwise, I'd be willing to be friends with you. I don't want to, Sumo said coldly. We cultivators of the three realms will never be puppets, and we will never associate with puppets. This humble Taoist is not a puppet. Taoist corpse corrected. What's the difference between a black lotus eaglehound and a puppet? Sumo said. The black lotus is endless, leading straight to the true method. Taoist corpse said solemnly. Demon King, it's a pity that your realm is too low. You can't understand the true meaning. Today, you can't get out of my barrier. Naturally, you'll have to end everything. Lord Wang won't let you live any longer. That's just your Lord Wang, Sumo said. He can't decide my fate. Ha ha. He will be our common Lord Wang, Taoist corpse said. However, you won't be able to see the path he shows you. At the end of his words, Taoist corpse's gray robe fluttered slightly. An inexplicable sense of oppression appeared in the entire barrier. Sumo's heart shook, because she had never encountered such oppression before. Taoist corpse's realm was definitely the highest among all the cultivators she'd met. Lotus Knight Tier 7. That was Taoist corpse's true realm. Taoist corpse and Black Blind Hermit were Heartless' two great protectors. Heartless would never have thought that in order to deal with a three realms Lotus soul, he'd really need his two great protectors to take action. Actually, Taoist corpse didn't plan to take action himself, because he had the top Lotus puppet Bu Miaotian. Taoist corpse and Black Blind Hermit were the same. They couldn't remember the last time they took action. However, Bu Miaotian didn't succeed. Instead, she was completely trapped in Sumo's formation and couldn't extricate herself. Whoosh! At this moment, Taoist corpse raised one hand. Actually, from the outside, Taoist corpse only raised his hand lightly. He didn't make any hand seals or make any big movements. His right hand directly grabbed Sumo. His hand was like a chicken's claw, dry and fleshless. However, the oppression he gave Sumo had never been felt before. Chi chi chi. The sound of something breaking through the air was like a lianhua. The forbidden map under Sumo's feet instantly surged up and automatically protected in front of her. There were even countless red flowers mixed in it. However, Taoist corpse just chuckled lightly. The horsetail whisk in his left hand gently waved. Whoosh! The red flowers of the forbidden map in front of Sumo instantly collapsed. At that moment, those top defenses were useless in front of Taoist corpse. The gap in level was like a chasm that couldn't be filled. Sumo's figure quickly retreated. At the same time, his mind moved. A black brilliance with a faint blue light went straight to Taoist corpse. He still had lianhua on him. Chapter 1035. Blue Scorpion Divine Whip. Oh! Seeing Sumo take out the lianhua, the corpse Taoist was somewhat surprised. The reason for that was because he knew that Sumo possessed several great lotus treasures. Lotus Vine, Kuan Soul Blade, Soul Depository Cauldron, Yin Yang Bell, and even the Cosmos Pouch. Sumo had used those lianhua more than once, but the corpse Taoist did not know about the other lianhua. The Lotus Vine and Yin Yang Bell had temporarily lost their effectiveness. The Soul Depository Cauldron and the Cosmos Pouch were nothing to the corpse Taoist, and Sumo could not fight against the corpse Taoist with just the Kuan Soul Blade. Therefore, the corpse Taoist did not care about Sumo at all. With a gap of 6 levels, even if Sumo had many treasures, it was almost useless. How many lianhua does the Demon King of the Three Realms have? The corpse Taoist was only a little curious. Whoosh! The corpse Taoist's posture did not change, and he gently swung the horsetail whisk in his left hand. Boom! A gray light flashed, and his horsetail whisk and the blue scorpion divine whip collided. The two lianbua seemed to have a slight difference in level, and the corpse Taoist's horsetail whisk was a level higher. Moreover, his level was far above Sumo's. With a boom, the blue scorpion divine whip was directly sent flying by the horsetail whisk. Actually, this was within Sumo's expectations. However, the blue scorpion divine whip did not seem to have any substantial effect on the corpse Taoist's movement. At most, it could only make him pause. The corpse Taoist's strength still shocked Sumo. Whoosh! The Koan soul blade slashed from the corpse Taoist's back. However, the corpse Taoist only smiled coldly. He did not even turn his head and only flicked his wrist. Boom! The Koan soul blade could not stop the corpse Taoist, and it was also sent flying. The corpse Taoist's right hand glowed with a deep black light, and directly broke the void. That hand seemed to have been tempered separately. Sumo retreated extremely quickly, but it seemed that she could not avoid it. With a thought, Sumo took a step forward. That step was his mystical footwork. This was the first time Sumo had used it in battle since she became a lotus. That step could break through time and space, directly moving from one world to another. When Sumo was in the exalted realm, she had only failed once in the cloth-clothed immortal lotus's barrier. In theory, Sumo should be able to escape. This time, Sumo took a step forward and disappeared. The corpse Taoist was taken aback. Because he had thought that he would be able to end Sumo with this one move. However, Sumo had disappeared. At this moment, Sumo appeared behind him. Actually, at this moment, Sumo was far more shocked than the corpse Taoist. Because, with this step, he was only a few hundred feet away from corpse Taoist. In other words, even though Sumo was a Lotus Knight and used her magical footwork, she still couldn't get out of the enchantment set up by the headless Taoist. Sumo moved again, 3 times in a row. During this time, inside the enchantment, Sumo turned into countless afterimages, and there seemed to be 3 or 4 Sumo appearing at the same time. However, no matter what, Sumo was inside the enchantment. He couldn't get out at all. Heh. The corpse Taoist didn't attack again, but looked at Sumo and laughed dryly. Zong Samsara step. Demon King, I didn't expect you to have some fate with old Ghost Zong. Unfortunately, your realm is too low. Today you can't escape even if you have wings. Old Ghost Zong? It was the first time Sumo had heard of this name. Presumably, it was the owner of the Soul Storage Altar Cave. Looking again, the corpse Taoist moved. This time, he didn't stretch out his hand, but directly took out his horsetail whisk. Because he felt that there seemed to be a special temperament on Sumo's body. The corpse Taoist didn't want to waste any more time. If he delayed, there would be changes. Although he was extremely confident in the enchantment he set up, it was better to fight quickly. Swish, with a flick of the horsetail whisk, thousands of rays of light appeared in the starry sky. Those gray lights were like rays of sunlight, but they were all gray, gloomy, and dark. Endless oppression that was an indiscriminate attack. The entire enchantment was filled with the power of the corpse Taoist, and the 9 puppets of the peak of the venerable realm flew towards Sumo at the same time. The enchantment was shrinking rapidly, and the power of the corpse Taoist seemed to explode in this limited enchantment in an instant. A touch of horror flashed through Sumo's heart. He finally had a new understanding of the power of a high-level Lotus Knight. In front of the corpse Taoist, he was really like an ant. Insignificant and powerless. Sumo still took a few steps. He was like a life flashing and moving in countless meteor showers. In fact, as long as the light hit Sumo, then he might perish. One step, another step. However, the corpse Taoist's gray light was endless. Previously, Sumo's perception was not wrong, this world belonged to the corpse Taoist. Another step. However, Sumo suddenly felt that his footsteps suddenly stopped. It turned out that he had reached the edge of the enchantment, and there was no way to retreat or go. Sumo could no longer hide. Whoosh, tens of thousands of gray lights went straight to Sumo. At this time, Sumo's heart suddenly moved. Another lianbua flew out of his storage bag. It was a yellowish-brown light, like a curtain in front of Sumo. Boom, rumble, the enchantment shook and the starry sky trembled. The endless power of the storm rose to the sky. At that moment, the entire Glaze star area seemed to feel an unstoppable power. That was a force even stronger than the explosion of a star domain. It was the power of the destruction of countless stars. In Sumo's memory, only the power of the destruction of the Star River could compare with it. The sky was spinning and the stars were shattered. What Sumo took out was the divine steel of 5 poisons. The many gray lights of the corpse Taoist hit the divine steel of 5 poisons directly. However, this time, the divine steel of 5 poisons was not shaken away like the other lianbua of Sumo. It was motionless. However, the interstellar tide caused by the collision of the two suddenly spread out. They collided with the power of the enchantment. Not only did those powers not melt each other, but they superimposed. How could Sumo, who was at the center of the power, withstand it? Sumo was directly thrown into the void by that powerful power. At the same time, his Dan-si kept rolling, and he could not control it at all. Wah! Sumo spat out a mouthful of blood. That is. The corpse Taoist stared at Sumo's divine steel of 5 poisons, and his eyes flashed with extreme horror. Because he felt an extremely terrible aura. That aura was extremely distant to him. Because he was not yet qualified to climb White Mountain. However, he had looked at White Mountain from afar and felt everything about it. Was that the sea-suppressing steel? The sea-suppressing steel, the steel that suppressed the perfumed sea. There were 2 of them, but they were both erected at the foot of White Mountain. It was impossible for Sumo to have the sea-suppressing steel. The sea-suppressing steel was a magic treasure above the lianbua. Moreover, if Sumo really had the ability to take out the sea-suppressing steel, the corpse Taoist would have probably been turned into ashes long ago. However, the aura of the steel was exactly the same as that of the sea-suppressing steel. However, these thoughts only flashed in the corpse Taoist's mind. The arrow on the bow had to be fired. The corpse Taoist deeply understood the meaning of his action this time. He had to kill Sumo no matter the cost. Therefore, his body moved, and he directly rushed towards Sumo. In the storm, the corpse Taoist was still in a state of no resistance. That was a level that the current Sumo could not reach. Corpse Taoist, how dare you? How dare you touch anyone's people? Right at this moment, a cold shout resounded from the sky. Chapter 1036. Sumo flew in the air, his face pale. He was inside the whirlpool of power. His body was badly mutilated. At that moment, Sumo felt like he had been sliced into pieces. Fortunately, his divine soul was still conscious. The corpse Taoist flew over. However, Sumo had no strength to resist. He still had the White Mountain token. That was Sumo's final trump card, but he was not sure if it could intimidate the corpse Taoist. However, at that moment there was a shout in the galaxy. Looking again, a white-haired old man appeared directly in front of Sumo, corpse Taoist. Stop! Whoosh! The white-haired old man waved his hand, and a green light shot toward the corpse Taoist. It was a green lotus. Green lotus seed. The corpse Taoist's expression froze. At the same time, the horsetail whisk in his hand flew out again, but the long tail was mostly bald. Even so, the power on the horsetail whisk was still surging. The corpse Taoist's horsetail whisk hit the green lotus. Whoosh, whoosh. The green lotus was hit by the horsetail whisk, but it instantly bloomed again. Layers of green light spread out, as if it was opening up a world. All the violent power in the galaxy began to dissipate. An incomparably huge green lotus bloomed in the galaxy. At that moment, all the power seemed to be unable to shake him. The corpse Taoist could not help but retreat slightly, his brows tightly knitted. His attack just now had not been able to break the green lotus. Qing Lianzi. The corpse Taoist looked at Qing Lianzi and said in a deep voice, "Do you really want to be enemies with His Majesty? You should understand that as long as you remain neutral, His Majesty will not mistreat you." Corpse Taoist, Qing Lianzi smiled coldly, "I have been neutral for too long. However, Black Lotus should understand that he has already crossed the line." Crossed the line? The corpse Taoist shook his head. "There is no line in His Majesty's heart. There is only the true method in his heart." Stubborn, Qing Lianzi said, "My eldest senior brother is still alive. Didn't you see the footprints of Lysimachia chinensis? This Yizong world was originally his. The winner is king and the loser is in the wrong. Don't ask about the past." The corpse Taoist smiled coldly. "What's the point of the past? Now, Yizong is in Honorable Wang's hands, and he will even bring Yizong to the true law world." "You're wrong. He doesn't want to bring Yizong to the true law realm. Instead, he wants to purify the entire Yizong," Qing Lianzi said. "It's all the same." Taoist corpse said disapprovingly, "As long as the king exists, the world exists. Green Lotus, if you don't move aside, don't blame me for being heartless. His Majesty has ordered us to kill Sumo at all costs." Taoist corpse smiled faintly. "So, to tell you the truth, unless I die here, no one can come. I don't care if you are a blue lotus, a red lotus, or even a Lysimachia chinensis. In my heart, there is only the Black Lotus and the king. Green Lotus, get out of the way." By the end of his speech, Taoist corpse's voice had already turned stern. There was not a single lie in what he said. Today, he really came with such a belief, but he didn't expect that he would really need to kill himself. He had already gone all out, even risking his life. Qing Lianzi's eyes narrowed. "Taoist corpse, Lotus warriors can't reincarnate. If you die, everything will become nothingness. So what? For the king, I'm willing." Taoist corpse said, "Moreover, your realm is lower than mine. You should be the one to die." Whoosh, at this point, Taoist corpse had already made his move. Because, he felt that he had already said enough. The barrier that he had set up previously was already more than half broken. He didn't know why Qing Lianzi would appear. One possibility was that Qing Lianzi had actually been secretly protecting Sumo. The other possibility was that Qing Lianzi had been traveling in the galaxy and sensed everything. Taoist corpse's barrier was the most special existence. Actually, as long as one wasn't nearby, even a high-level Lotus warrior would definitely not notice anything unusual. The enforcers in Luo Fan Town would be deceived by him. However, he didn't expect Sumo to have such a stone tablet. That stone tablet was even more terrifying than Sumo's other Lianhua, because it seemed to have the aura of Baishan. The barrier was more than half broken. Since Qing Lianzi was here, it was very likely that others would come. Qing Lianzi was a Lotus warrior in the 5th realm, so Taoist corpse was not afraid. However, as time passed, there was no telling who would come. If Qing Lianzi was here, maybe Lysimachia chinensis would come. Taoist corpse knew that he was definitely not a match for Lysimachia chinensis. And if the people from Luo Fan Town came, it would be even more troublesome. Therefore, he had to settle everything as soon as possible. And Qing Lianzi's thoughts were exactly the opposite of his. He wanted to delay as much time as possible, because he really had no confidence against Taoist corpse. Taoist corpse and Black Blind were the two great enforcers of Black Lotus. Every single one of them was a peerless figure, and they were all loyal to the Black Lotus. Qing Lianzi could only delay for time. However, Taoist corpse didn't give him the chance. Disperse. Taoist corpse moved forward. Looking again, he raised his right hand. In the void, countless locust-like existences appeared. They covered the sky and the earth, filling the starry sky. They were black and dense, like a black wind. Flying lotus bugs. Qing Lianzi's expression changed. Because they were the nemesis of many immortal lotuses. They could devour lotus light. Moreover, Taoist corpses flying lotus bugs were even more terrifying. Because they were not real flying lotus bugs at all, but flying lotus bug puppets. They had the abilities of the flying lotus bugs, but they did not have the weaknesses of the flying lotus bug. As soon as the flying lotus bugs appeared, Qing Lianzi's green lotus instantly dimmed. However, Qing Lianzi did not withdraw the green lotus, because that could waste some time. Whoosh, looking again, Taoist corpse had already put away the horsetail whisk in his left hand, and what appeared was a sword. And seeing that sword, Qing Lianzi's pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. His soul suddenly trembled. It was a black and white long sword. The black and white brilliance flowed endlessly on the blade. The pressure on the sword made even lotus warriors feel a sense of oppression. By Xianjian, that was a top-grade lianbua in the hidden world. Its level was even higher than Sumo's lotus vine and Kuan's soul saber, and could be said to be the best of the best. Qing Lianzi really did not expect that Heartless would give this sword to Taoist Corp. The appearance of Bai Xianjian was enough to prove that what Taoist Corpse said just now was not false. The appearance of Bai Xianjian was like the arrival of a black lotus. Taoist Corpse would definitely not give up until he killed Sumo. Die, Qing Lianzi! Taoist Corpse roared, and then he went straight for Qing Lianzi with Bai Xianjian in hand. Bai Xianjian! Qing Lianzi still had 2 lianbua on him. However, he knew that they would definitely not be able to block Bai Xianjian. At this moment, even if there was a world in front of him, Bai Xianjian would break it. Qing Lianzi did not have lianbua on him that could contend against Bai Xianjian. Qing Lianzi could only retreat hurriedly. Lotus Warrior Tier 5 was actually already a high-level cultivator. However, in front of a Lotus Warrior Tier 7, Qing Lianzi was still at a disadvantage. Bai Xianjian shot out 2 rays of light. Black light and white light were like 2 sword rays. Qing Lianzi could not dodge at all. Fortunately, Qing Lianzi gritted his teeth. He knew that he was no match for Taoist Corpse, and if he wanted to protect Sumo, he had to at least severely injure Taoist Corp. Otherwise, Sumo would definitely die. Explode. Qing Lianzi directly formed a seal while retreating. Boom. His green lotus suddenly exploded. That was his natal lotus. This time, Qing Lianzi was equivalent to destroying his own cultivation. However, he had no other choice. At this moment, a white shadow was heading straight for them. Chapter 1037. Samsara of the One Treasury has no updates today. Currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1038. Green Lotus was Green Lotus Seed's life. As long as the Azure Lotus existed, his cultivation would remain. If the Azure Lotus was destroyed, his cultivation would be completely destroyed. However, facing the corpse Taoist, who was holding the white profound sword, he had no other choice. He could only self-detonate the green lotus to stop Taoist Corp. Bang! The cyan lotus exploded, instantly shattering priest corpse's entire defensive magic screen. The corpse Taoist really didn't expect that Qing Lianzi would explode her natal green lotus to save Sumo. That would be no different from suicide. The power of the explosion of the green lotus had indeed made the corpse Taoist choose to retreat. He definitely did not dare to face the power of the green lotus self-destruction head-on. It was also equivalent to an indiscriminate attack. However, Qing Lianzi's plan to severely injure Priest Corpse did not come true. That was because the corpse Taoist pointed at the space between his eyebrows and endless black light suddenly lit up there. It was a black lotus seal. It was a stream of power sealed between the eyebrows of Priest Headless and Dark Blind by Black Lotus Heartless. and this power was specifically used to deal with existences like Green Lotus Seed. Heartless also had 4 of his sect mates: eldest Shixiang Lysimachia Chinensis, third Shixiang Honglian, fourth Shixiang Zilian, and youngest Shixiang Qinglian. They were the disciples of the same master, once the strongest cultivators of Yizhuang world. Their master had once controlled the entire Yizong world. Later on, the one who took control of the Yizong world should be the eldest disciple, Lysimachia Chinensis, or Lao Xuantu. However, he was only willing to play around with the various worlds, not managing a single world. Therefore, he gave up his Lotus Soul position to Black Lotus Heartless. However, the Heartless choice was something that Lysimachia Chinensis did not expect. Heartless, willing to use all living beings as the price to purify one treasury, in order to enter the realm of true law. For tens of thousands of years, Heartless had been preparing for purification. He kept devouring small worlds, making Yizong world even stronger. And the last world he devoured was the galaxy. However, the Star River realm seemed a little special. Some things were completely out of Heartless' expectations. The 2 Lotus Souls of the 3 realms galaxy seemed to be extraordinary. However, the Heartless way of thinking would never change. He had been preparing for purification for tens of thousands of years. No one could stop him. A few of his fellow disciples might become his obstacles. Therefore, he had sealed a special power on Taoist Black Blind and Taoist Corpseless. Other than the Lysimachia Chinensis, it should not be a problem to deal with the other disciples. A black beam flew out from the spot between Priest Corpse's eyebrows, and the power of Black Lotus instantly spread out. Alas, Qinglianzi went all out to destroy herself. Qinglianzi's attack directly collapsed in front of Black Lotus. Moreover, the Corpse Taoist raised one hand. The horsetail whisk that he had put away before flew out again, heading straight for the Green Lotus Seed. At this moment, Qinglianzi self-destructed his lotus, and he had no power to resist at all. Eldest senior brother, I've tried my best. Qinglianzi smiled bitterly at the last moment. Puff, the horsetail whisk struck right between Qinglianzi's brows. Bang, when he looked again, Qinglianzi's body suddenly exploded. His immortal heart was shattered and his body collapsed. At the same time, a shadow of a green lotus shot up into the sky, and then exploded like fireworks. Green light scattered, illuminating the entire Glaze world. At that moment, the entire Yizong world was shaken. In the distance, the white figure that had not yet arrived could not help but pause. He knew that he was already too late. However, fortunately, that was not the aura of Sumo's death. A high-level Lotus Knight had fallen. One must know that in the entire Yizong world, high-level Lotus Knights could be counted on one hand. The aura of Qinglianzi's death, like the remnant waves of a star explosion, rapidly spread out of the entire Glaze world. The Corpse Taoist's face was also somewhat pale. He knew that there was no turning back for him. Qinglianzi's death would definitely shake the entire Yizong world, and even fallen Mortal Town. Many hidden mighty figures would come down one after another. Now they might not be in the Yizong world. However, they would soon know everything. This time, it was as if he had ignited a barrel of gunpowder that had been sealed for countless years. The fuse began to burn rapidly, and an even more intense explosion was definitely still to come. In for a penny, in for a pound. In the endless storm, the Corpse Taoist once again raised the white profound sword. On his somewhat stiff face, there was actually a slight twitch of his muscles. Sumo was still floating in midair. 3 feet in front of him was the protective 5 poisons divine steel. At this moment, the Corpse Taoist no longer thought about where the steel came from, or what relationship it had with the sea-suppressing steel. Because that was no longer important. Who cared who? So what? He, the Corpse Taoist, had even killed Qinglianzi. Even if the enforcer of fallen Mortal Town came, so what? Even if the Windwheel faction came, so what? Once the battle began, there was no turning back. At most, he would die. Cultivators were the same as mortals. Once they thought about life and death, they would become very terrifying. The corpse Taoist was in such a state now. He was already fearless. Unless the Black Lotus Heartless came personally, only death could stop his actions. Kill. The corpse Taoist used all the strength in his body, raised the white profound sword, and directly slashed at Sumo. This time, he did not stab, but slash. It was like a mortal who no longer had any scruples and staked everything on one throw. He understood that even if he died, killing Sumo would be worth it. In fact, everything happened in a split second. Sumo's consciousness was clear, but she could no longer mobilize the power in her body. His mind moved, and he wanted to use the White Mountain Decree. However, the corpse Taoist's speed was actually faster than his mind. Before the decree was used, the sword had already arrived. Boom, crack. The corpse Taoist's white profound sword really wanted to go around the 5 poisons divine steel, but the 5 poisons divine steel wanted to protect Sumo. It was like a true guardian. Therefore, the corpse Taoist's sword slashed right on the 5 poisons divine steel. This was no less than the collision of 2 large galaxies. The 5 poisons divine steel was a part of the sea-suppressing steel. Back then, it was cut in half by a super-immortal power. Although it was no longer the real sea-suppressing steel, it was definitely a top-grade lianbua. The white profound sword was also a top-grade lianbua, refined by Heartless. The 2 treasures fought and shattered at the same time. Boom! The light that soared into the sky rose again. This time, the power was even greater than the explosion of the Green Lotus. It could be said that the green light just now did not dissipate, but was directly dispersed by the impact this time. The corpse Taoist was really going all out. He and Sumo were both at the center of the vortex of power. His Taoist robe collapsed in an instant. Under the Taoist robe was not a physical body, but a puppet body. The puppet body had no flesh and blood, just a special skeleton, and no one knew what material it was made of. That was the corpse Taoist's greatest secret. His obsession with puppets had already reached a point where it could not be surpassed. He did not only turn Bu Miaotian into a puppet, but he also turned himself into a puppet. Boom! The flesh and blood on the corpse Taoist's head collapsed. Because he could not withstand the power at the center of the storm. The puppet body also began to crack, but he did not die. 2 black flames emitted from the eye sockets of the skull. The flames were the foundation of the corpse Taoist. It was an extremely terrifying scene. At this moment, Sumo's physical body had also completely collapsed. However, his soul was also not destroyed. Because a token floated between the eyebrows of his soul. Many lianbua surrounded his soul. The 5 poisons divine steel had turned into countless fragments, directly forming a belt around the periphery of his divine soul. Suddenly, a voice that sounded like an oracle came from the White Mountain token, reincarnation of life and death, casting the soul for 10,000 generations. Only when the lotus blooms and the lotus falls will your body be formed. Chapter 1039. Life and Death Reincarnation. 10,000 generations cast the soul. The lotus blooms and the lotus falls to form your body. The voice from the White Mountain token reverberated. At that moment the entire galaxy seemed to be quiet. All the immortal power storms calmed down. In that voice, they were as calm as the surface of a still lake. Bang, bang, the 5 poisons divine steel's fragments began a new round of explosions. Suddenly, a brilliant green light was emitted. The white mysterious sword's fragments danced in the wind. The 2 lianbua began to interweave and merge. At the same time, a lush tree flew out of Sumo's cosmos pouch. The tree's trunk was uneven. Its bark was gray and smooth, its crown was wide. Its branches drooped like whiskers, its leaves were sparse and thick. The Bodhi tree. The tree of life and death. Actually, there were 2 trees of life and death. One life, one death, one withering, one flourishing. The 2 had long been in Sumo's storage pouch. They came from the Wind Wheel Palace, left by the white-robed guardian for Sumo. However, Sumo had never used them, so she did not know what they could do. It was not Sumo who was controlling everything. Sumo's divine soul had not been destroyed, but he had basically sunk into a state of ignorance. The Bodhi tree shone brightly. At the same time, its dense branches and leaves began to wither, all of its life force began to pour into Sumo's soul. The 5 poisons, divine steel and white mysterious swords fragments all fused into the Bodhi tree's white light. Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, Sumo's lotus vines, Kuan's soul blade, Yin Yang bell, and blue scorpion whip all flew into the Bodhi tree's light. Other than the cosmos pouch and the soul depository cauldron, all of Sumo's lianbua flew into the light. At the same time, the soul depository cauldron enlarged by over 10,000 times. It was like a cauldron standing in the galaxy to boil the sea. Whoosh! Sumo's soul, the Bodhi tree, and everything in its light all flew into the soul depository cauldron. Looking again, the soul depository cauldron was filled with immortal energy, filling the vast universe. One piece of lianbua could create a world of its own. There were countless worlds inside the soul depository cauldron. At this moment, Taoist corpse was left hundreds of miles behind by the immortal power. However, his divine soul was still there. The 2 black flames in the skull pulsed non-stop. He had heard of the soul depository cauldron. However, he had never seen so many lianbua enter the soul hiding cauldron at the same time. What's more, there was Sumo's divine soul. What was he trying to do? Bai Shan Fa also followed Sumo's divine soul into the soul depository cauldron. Could it be that it would be refined as well? But that was impossible. The soul depository cauldron could refine ordinary lianbua, but it was impossible to refine the White Mountain art. At this moment, another withered tree flew out of the cosmos sack. There were even spider webs on the withered tree. Naturally, it was the dead tree of the tree of life and death. One life, one death. Both trees had appeared. There were no flames in the universe. However, the withered tree fell directly under the soul depository cauldron and burst into flames. No one knew who had started the fire. All of that seemed to have happened automatically. That scene could be said to be extremely shocking. Taoist Corpse was the #1 puppet master in all the realms. He claimed to be able to create humans. However, he had never seen such a shocking scene. He did not have such a grand scale when he created puppets. Whose skill was this? Was this going to refine humans? Or was it also a sacrificial puppet? Who was the one who made that oracle-like voice just now? Several thoughts flashed through Taoist Corpse's mind. At this moment, Taoist Corpse was not the only one who was shocked. Between the stars, there was an old man in white. Although it was white, it was full of stains. Some places were black and shiny, and some places were already tattered. He looked sloppy, but there was a storage bag at his waist. He was none other than Bai Lai. He was the white shadow that had been rushing over just now. However, he did not expect to see such a scene. He also recognized the soul depository cauldron. However, it was also his first time seeing the soul depository cauldron being able to refine humans. Previously, he had never heard of it. Things seemed to be more complicated than he had expected. Bai Lai stood at the periphery and did not move forward, because he felt that it was no longer a problem that he could solve. However, he blocked Taoist Corpse's way. This old Taoist must not be allowed to leave today. Taoist Corpse had ignited everything, so he should pay the price for it. Whoosh, whoosh, the withered tree soared like a dragon, and the flames fluttered, as if many worlds were burning. At this moment, all the mighty figures of the venerable realm and above in the entire Glaze world could probably see this interstellar fire, as well as the soul depository cauldron on top of it. The fire was raging, and no one dared to approach it, because even a lotus warrior might be incinerated. At this moment, a black hole had formed between the stars. Bai Lai frowned and held his breath. He did not know what the result would be. And at this moment, a figure appeared not far away from him. It was a man in a yellow cloth robe. He was tall and slender, wearing a pair of wooden clogs, a wooden ruler at his waist, and a wooden mask on his face. The design of the mask was actually a ferocious beast. Bai Lai saw the masked man, and the masked man also saw Bai Lai. Therefore, the masked man slowly walked towards Bai Lai. And Bai Lai's face showed a rare solemn expression. The masked man slowly approached. Then, Bai Lai bowed deeply to the masked man, and at the same time, he cupped his hands and said, "Windmill Bai Lai greets Master Mu. Ha ha! Old Bai, long time no see." The masked man, Master Mu, laughed in a hoarse voice. "You and Lysimachia Chinensis play the world, is it interesting?" "Master Mu, you must be joking. That Lysimachia Chinensis, on the other hand, plays the world. I, Bai Lai, have important matters to attend to." Bai Lai laughed. "That's a hard job, where's the fun in it? Your important matter is him, right?" As he spoke, Master Mu pointed in the direction of the Soul Depository Cauldron. "That's right." Bai Lai looked at the Soul Depository Cauldron and nodded. "Sumo is my windmill lineage's junior. Wherever he hides, I hides as well. He is the hope of your windmill." Master Mu's voice contained a tinge of regret. Bai Lai nodded. "Master Mu, is everything in front of us your handiwork?" "My handiwork? Old Bai, you think too highly of me." Master Mu shook his head and said, "I'm just a shipbuilder. Some people can board my ship and ascend White Mountain. But I don't have a ticket. Moreover, every lianbua in the Soul Depository Cauldron is extraordinary. I don't have the ability to refine them. However, I'm afraid that all those things added together cannot compare to your immeasurable ship." Bai Lai said, "It's the only unsinkable ship in all the worlds. It's just a different function. The immeasurable ship searches for fated people in all the world. Actually, I'm just a ferryman of White Mountain. I rarely ask about the matters on the mountain," Master Mu said. "Master Mu, you're too humble." Bai Lai laughed and said, "Do you mean that this is the handiwork of someone on White Mountain?" "Old Bai, what else do you think?" Master Mu chuckled and didn't say anything else. Bai Lai nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he frowned and looked at everything. He didn't understand what White Mountain meant. Chapter 1040. White Mountain, to the infinite worlds, or rather, to the known worlds, was an existence akin to the realm of gods. Many Lotus scholars yearned for White Mountain, but White Mountain was unreachable to them. One could say that White Mountain's will was the will of all the worlds. However, White Mountain rarely interfered with the war of the world. It was like a high and mighty god, looking down on the mortal realm with a playful smile. In theory, Sumo's matters had nothing to do with White Mountain. However, White Mountain's power had intervened this time. It had interfered with the battle that was still under control in the Yizong realm. Such a thing had never happened before. Whoosh! The tree of life and death was still burning. No one knew how long this sacrificial refinement would last. The Soul Depository Cauldron was shrouded in white mist, almost forming an enormous cloud. It blocked all divine senses. No one could see what was going on inside. Time seemed to have stopped. The only thing that moved was the raging flame. It was a sign that the world was still in motion. If the spiritless Taoist's boundary had allowed a vast galaxy to exist independently, then White Mountain's power had caused the entire Yizong realm to remain motionless. Bai Lai, Master Mu, and the spiritless Taoist did not speak or move. In truth, they did not realize that time had stopped. To them, it seemed to only be an instant. Even further away, Bu Miaotian stood alone. His eyes were still gloomy. The 9-peak venerable purple-clothed puppets that had set up the formation had long been annihilated. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, time had always been passing. However, the people of the Izang realm could not sense it at all. Outside White Mountain's mountain gate, immortal mist lingered, dense smoke lingered. 49 steps by 7 by 7, smooth as a mirror. That was where Sumo had once wandered but could not enter. The 2 simple and unadorned stone tablets still stood majestically. One of them was only half a piece. It had been neatly cut at the waist. At this moment, 2 immortal children stood outside the mountain gate. They had delicate features. They appeared to be only 11 or 12 years old. They wore colorful clothes and had their hair combed into a double-ringed bun. They formed a seal with their hands and gazed at the sea of perfume. Their gazes were fixed on a lotus flower in the sea of perfume. That lotus flower was quite large and emitted a 5-colored light. It was the hidden realm lotus. At this moment, the scene of the soul concealment cauldron refining Sumo was reflected in their eyes. "Senior Marshal brother, it's about time, right?" one of the boys asked. "Let's not spoil the lotus." Not only did he fail to form his golden lotus body, he was also burned to death. The other boy laughed and said, "How could that be? Firstly, our subordinates are quite accurate. Secondly, the cauldron is filled with supreme treasures of various realms. Don't forget that half of the ocean suppressing tablet is in there. Thirdly, how can a person whom we helped refine the golden lotus body be an ordinary person? I reckon that the demon king must be someone who has suffered thousands of tribulations, so why would he let us burn him alive?" The first boy laughed. "That's true. However, we have already been here for more than 6 hours, so it should have been more than 3,000 years in the Lotus world. It was about time. Senior brother, how powerful do you think the Golden Lotus Avatar is?" "I'm not too sure. However, I know that all the Dharma Lotus Venerables will have the Golden Lotus Avatar. That little Lotus soul is really a great opportunity. When will we have such an opportunity?" The boy said, "The great Lotus Venerables will also give us a Golden Lotus Avatar. Our opportunity is not small." The boy smiled and said, "In all the realms, aren't we the only ones who can guard the gate of White Mountain? Many Lotus warriors want to go up White Mountain, but they can't even touch the gate." The boy couldn't help but laugh. "That's right. In a while, when Senior Marshal Sister Shue comes, we will probably be able to decide. Let's wait for a while more," the boy said. Thus, the 2 White Mountain boys continued to form hand seals with serious expressions, not daring to be the slightest bit slow. Because it was said that their mission this time was issued from the peak of White Mountain. Unfortunately, the 2 boys had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, but had never reached the peak of White Mountain. They were not qualified. At the same time, Luo Fan Town. Mr. Ren sat calmly by the World Observation Lake. He had already been here for 3 days and nights. To him, this was something that had never happened before. Usually, he wouldn't be here at night. All the realms were calm and peaceful, there wasn't much to monitor. At this moment, only he was here, and so was the scholar. The mirror on the World Observation Lake had long been opened. Everything that happened in Izang World was displayed here. "Fishing, did you really not notice anything unusual in Izang World?" the scholar asked lazily. "I really didn't." Mr. Rin smiled helplessly. "Otherwise, why wouldn't I stop him? That Taoist Wu Di is indeed quite capable. His barrier actually evaded my detection. Fortunately, nothing happened." The scholar smiled and said, "Otherwise, if that sumo really met with an accident and you didn't notice it, you might not be able to explain it to Bai Feng." Mr. Rin nodded. "However, that old Bai is already here. My responsibility isn't that big. There's also the carpenter." The scholar couldn't help but frown. "Fishing, you said that even the carpenter went there. What does that White Mountain mean? I'm not clear about the specific meaning." However, the current situation at least explains one thing. Mr. Rin said. White Mountain is protecting Sumo. The scholar asked. That's right. Mr. Rin nodded. Ever since the carpenter left the village and went to White Mountain. This is the first time we've seen him, right? He rarely shows up in the various realms. Yes. He is the only person in our village who climbed up White Mountain. The scholar sighed. This sigh seemed to be filled with envy and a little unwillingness at the same time. He is indeed stronger than us. Mr. Rin heard the scholar's tone. Regardless of whether it's your magic brush or my heaven hook, they are not as good as his immeasurable ship. Therefore, we are the law enforcement officers and can only guard the town. He is the ferryman and can travel the various realms. If we really fight, he might not be my match. The scholar waved the paper fan in his hand. Mr. Rin smiled noncommittally. The point is that the carpenter won't fight with you at all. As long as he gets on the boat, can your magic brush trap him? Humph. The scholar could only snort coldly when he heard that. This was because Mr. Rin was right. The carpenter did have a special ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been chosen to climb up White Mountain. Scholar, do you think Heartless will really fight against White Mountain? Mr. Rin asked the scholar solemnly. Mr. Rin and the scholar had known each other for many years. Naturally, he understood the deep meaning behind Mr. Rin's question. Therefore, he restrained his expression and pondered for a while. Heartless wouldn't dare, the scholar said. He doesn't have that power. Not to mention White Mountain, would he dare to set foot in Fallen Mortal Town? This time, Taoist Headless will definitely fall. It's equivalent to cutting off one of his arms. Mr. Rin shook his head when he heard the scholar's words. Scholar, Headless and Black Blind are just Heartless abilities on paper. There must be an even more extraordinary power beside Heartless. He might not dare to go up White Mountain, but if he wants to return to Fallen Mortal Town, blood will definitely flow like a river. The scholar raised his eyebrows when he heard that. If blood flowed like a river in Fallen Mortal Town, it would really be a great change. Chapter 1041. The Hidden Samsara has no updates today. Currently typing, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1042. In the vast universe, in an unknown place. Everything that happened in the Izong world naturally alarmed Heartless and the other peerless experts. They had been observing the various realms from different spacetimes. This unknowable place was where they gathered and communicated with each other. Similarly, they had only heard the voice, but not seen the person. Heartless, it looks like you're in big trouble. Elder Lien's voice was the first to be heard. His voice was a little low. I didn't expect Bai Shan's power to interfere in the Izong world. And after a while, Wu Qing's voice replied in a muffled voice. It sounded like he was a little depressed in his heart. Heartless, this isn't a small matter. Elder Lien said. We've been preparing for tens of thousands of years to enter the true law realm. Now that we're getting closer to our goal, I didn't expect Bai Shan to interfere. This is really unexpected. Ha ha ha. Joyful Lady's voice was heard. She laughed seductively before continuing, Heartless, I'm afraid you're at your wits' end this time. That Lotus soul has completely grown. He's received Bai Shan's protection. I think he's about to forge a golden lotus body. Once his golden body is formed, he'll definitely become a high-level lotus knight. And your puppet Taoist definitely won't be able to return. Whether it's that masked man or that sloppy old man, they both seem to be able to kill him. Unless you personally take action, there's nothing you can do about that demon king of the three realms. If he manages to save that MU. Joyful, it's no longer a matter of Heartless taking action personally. Elder Lien interrupted Joyful Lady. So what if Heartless takes action? If Bai Shan's power can protect that Lotus soul once, he might be able to protect it a second time. Our current opponent seems to be Bai Shan, not that little lotus soul. Passion Monk's voice was heard. Passion Monk is right, Elder Lien said. Bai Shan seems to be a little dissatisfied with our opening of the true law realm. Previously, he turned a blind eye to it. Now, he's using the matter of the Demon King of the Three Realms as a warning. Ha ha! Joyful Lady laughed coldly. What's there to be dissatisfied about, Bai Shan? It could freely pass through the true law realm. Could it be that no one else is allowed to enter? Elder Lien sighed and said, This is the way of the world. The strong are respected. It can pass through the true law realm, so it has the ability to reject us. No one wants others to be on equal footing with them. Ha ha! Happy Girl said coldly, If that's the case, we can just fight our way up to White Mountain. Ba. When the Love Monk heard this, he could not help but recite the name of Buddha. Be happy, be careful with your words. If we really had that kind of ability, would we still need to purify a few great worlds? What? Little monk, are you afraid? The joyful lady suddenly changed into a seductive voice. Where did your omnipotent abilities go? The Love Monk said nothing. I've waited for tens of thousands of years. If Bai Shan really sets up an obstacle at the last step, I'll definitely kill him. In that case, even if the Kunlun realm is destroyed, I will fight for it. Didn't we cultivate for tens of thousands of years just to enter the true law realm? If White Mountain really doesn't allow us to enter, what's the use of fighting to the death? Joyful, it's not time yet. Elder Lien's voice sounded. After all, White Mountain did not attack us directly. Although White Mountain is strong, he does not seem to want to start a war. To them, the Demon King of the Three Realms is just a supporter. White Mountain hopes that he can stop us. Dream on. Heartless said coldly, To me, Izong world must be purified first. Then, our four realms will work together to enter the true law realm. Other than that, I don't want to do anything. Who wants to stop me? Either I die or he dies. Ha ha. When the joyful lady heard this, she laughed. Heartless, you are right. You finally have some of the flavor of you from back then. Heartless. Elder Lien wanted to say something but hesitated. Elder Lien, Izong's purification is our last step. If we can't complete it here, we can't enter the true law realm. Now we have no way out. Heartless said. I still have cards in my hands. What if? Don't worry. Elder Lien sighed. Wuching, it can be said that we, the four great realms, live for life and die when we die. At the crucial moment, we will not sit still and watch. This is because without Izong's power, all our previous efforts will be for naught. Hence, I am willing to bet the entire divine illusionary realm, advancing and retreating together with Izong world, living and dying together. Thank you, Elder Lien, Heartless said seriously. With Elder Lien's words, I can rest assured. May the Buddha bless you. Heartless, don't worry. This humble monk is also willing to bet the entire Sumer realm. The Passion Monk also expressed his stance. Ha ha. The joyful lady's voice rang out at the end, sounding incomparably cheerful. This humble girl is not only willing to bet my entire Kunlun realm, but also me. If we really want to attack White Mountain, I am willing to offer myself to the three of you and let you all have a taste of bliss. Ha! Heartless, Passion Monk, I can yearn for you for a long time. Elder Lien, can you do it? The joyful lady's voice was truly captivating. Ha! Elder Lien's rather heroic laughter rang out. Joyful lady, there is nothing this old man can't do in this life. It's decided. If the four of us really join forces, even White Mountain will be shaken. Heartless did not speak. He was not willing to speak in the first place. May the Buddha bless you. The Passion Monk chanted the name of Buddha as a reply. Evidently, they all agreed with Elder Lien's words. The four of them were all Dharma Lotus Venerables. Even a great Lotus Venerable would have to be wary. White Mountain. Looking at White Mountain from the direction of the Sea of Perfume, White Mountain was just a mountain. However, when one stood on top of White Mountain, one would understand that White Mountain was an independent world. The entire White Mountain was divided into a total of 3 heavens. White Mountain's mountain gate was naturally located in the first heaven, while the peak of White Mountain was located in the 3rd heaven. In between each heaven, there were layers of clouds. Looking from afar, White Mountain was surrounded by a strange and beautiful scenery. Actually, that was a special world barrier. However, there were actually not many cultivators on White Mountain. Even if all the cultivators of the entire White Mountain realm were added up, they would probably not be able to compare to Fallen Mortal Town. However, White Mountain was much bigger than Luofan Town. Moreover, the cultivators who could be on White Mountain, no matter what their status was, were at least high-level Lotus Knights. They could really be considered immortal realm. At this moment, a beautiful girl in purple clothes directly descended from the 2nd layer of clouds. Her figure was light and graceful, like a fluttering purple butterfly. In an instant, she had already arrived at the mountain gate of White Mountain. She was none other than Wang Shui, senior sister Shui. The 2 children hurriedly bowed to Wang Shui when they saw her. Their attitude was extremely respectful. This was because they knew that this senior sister Shui was an important person on White Mountain. "Thank you for your hard work, junior brothers," Wang Shui said with a smile. "This matter is done. I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of Great Lotus Venerable and strive to let you 2 ascend to the 2nd heaven." When the 2 children heard this, their faces revealed great joy. "Thank you, senior sister Shui." Wang Shui smiled and nodded. Then, her beautiful eyes moved slightly and emitted a strange brilliance as she looked at the hidden realm lotus. Then, she nodded lightly. "The time has come. The golden body has been formed. Junior brothers, open the cauldron." In an unknown place in the vast universe, everything that happened in Dongi Planet region had naturally alarmed the peerless experts. This was because they had been observing many worlds from different spacetimes. This unknown place was where their divine senses converged. "Chun Luodongi, there's a small disturbance." Happy Girl's voice was the first to be heard. "The remnant of the Star River has been forcibly dragged to the hidden realm. The place where it used to be has become a black hole. I'm afraid a black lotus is about to form." The aged voice of Elder Lien followed. "Heartless, everything in the hidden realm doesn't seem to be going smoothly." Elder Lien continued, "Your people didn't get rid of that alien in the Star River either." There was silence for a while. "My people missed it." Heartless' voice finally responded. "That son of the Star River seems to have mastered a lotus art. He can travel through spacetime. My people didn't catch up to him." "Lotus art?" The lotus's voice was a little surprised. "That's right. It's said to be a kind of spacetime lotus art. It should be of a very high level. Otherwise, the cultivators I sent wouldn't have returned empty-handed," Heartless said. Heartless, if you really don't have anyone to use, I can send my people to the hidden realm to help you," Happy Girl said with a smile. "Happy Girl, the hidden realm is my domain." Heartless' voice was cold and firm. "It's yours now, but if you can't complete the purification in the end, it won't be yours anymore." Happy Girl's tone didn't change, but her charming voice was full of threat. "I'll complete the evolution according to the agreement. If I can't complete it, I'll definitely fulfill my promise. But before that, if anyone dares to touch my hidden realm, don't blame me for being heartless." Ahmed Ba. Love Monk's voice was heard, and then he said with a smile, "Heartless, calm down. It's best for us 4 realms to advance together. That's the right way. Unless it's absolutely necessary, we won't devour each other and damage our own strength. However, Heartless, you mustn't let your guard down." "The little monk is right." Elder Lien sighed. "Heartless, don't worry. We won't overstep our boundaries, but you have to handle everything yourself. We've planned for millions of years, we mustn't fail at the last moment. The situation in the hidden realm is indeed a little complicated. We won't interfere, but you have to know what to do. Heartless understands. Since there's a pure land in the hidden realm, I'll make that pure land the graveyard of the cultivators of the three realms. I'll catch them all in one fell swoop and eliminate any future troubles. My people are already chasing after him again. Heartless laughed coldly. No one can overturn the heavens in my hands, Heartless. He said the last sentence to himself, but also to the other three. The others didn't respond. The unknown land returned to peace. Chapter 1043. Samsara of the One Treasury will be later today, but it will definitely be earlier. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1044. The time has come. Following Wang Shui's words, the two children changed their hand seals. Boom, boom. In the glaze galaxy of the Yizong world, the soul depository cauldron vibrated and buzzed. Bai Lai, Master Mu, and the Taoist corpse all shuddered. When they looked again, the white clouds suddenly exploded. Layers of clouds surged and spread in all directions. At that moment, it was as if an endless mountain of clouds had exploded in the galaxy. The entire Yizong world instantly returned to normal. In the middle of the sea of clouds, a golden light suddenly shone. Like a blazing sun that was about to erupt, it shone with golden light. Bai Lai, Master Mu, and the Taoist corpse all narrowed their eyes, their pupils constricting, because the golden light was too blinding. At that moment, a man in white rose from the golden light. The lotus aura was dense, as beautiful as a demon. It was naturally Sumo, level 7 of the lotus realm. At the same time, Sumo's body emitted endless golden light. The lotus aura and the golden light were dazzling. Golden lotus body! Golden lotus body! Bai Lai and Master Mu said at the same time. Although the names were different, they had the same meaning. A normal lotus warrior, even a level 7 lotus warrior, would not have a dermic lotus body. But having a dermic lotus body was a prerequisite for becoming a dermic lotus king. Sumo had gained a qualitative leap. Master Mu, could it be that Sumo's previous life was on White Mountain? Bai Lai frowned. Maybe. Under the mask, Master Mu's brows furrowed. He did not have an accurate answer. However, his thoughts were the same as Bai Lai's. The lotus soul of the three realms might really be related to White Mountain. Otherwise, it would not be worth the effort of those on White Mountain. One should know that the value of a dermic lotus body far exceeded that of a level 7 lotus warrior. Among those present, even Master Mu did not have a dermic lotus body. At that moment, the entire Yizong world seemed to shake. Because even in a great world like Yizong world, there should not be more than 2 dermic lotus bodies. Boom, crack, crack. The starry sky within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers began to shatter at the same time. It was a kind of interstellar collapse, because at this moment it still couldn't adapt to Sumo's existence. Suppress. At this moment, Master Mu separated his hands. Whoosh, la la, countless bamboo-like objects suddenly flew out from his hands. Each of them was only 3 inches long, but they grew with the wind. In an instant, after they flew out, they turned into countless pillars that supported the sky. Boom, boom, 108 bamboo slices, 108 sky-reaching pillars. In fact, each root was equivalent to a lianhua. At this time, if Sumo had a chance to look carefully, she would discover that the material of the bamboo was exactly the same as the immeasurable ships. 108 sky-propping pillars flew for tens of thousands of miles. However, according to different directions, they directly took root between the stars. Only then did the entire glaze realm stop collapsing. Master Mu was truly afraid that Sumo's advancement would directly destroy the glaze realm. Since then, the Glazed Star territory had formed a special world, the Lotus Bamboo Dead Sea. That was because there were no stars left in this starfield. This part of Sumo's story became a legend in the Izong world. At this time, Sumo's eyes were slightly closed. Your body is complete. Wake up. The voice that sounded like an oracle from before spoke again. Is that the voice of the great Lotus Venerable? Bailai asked. I'm not sure. Master Mu shook his head. He really wasn't sure. Because even he had never seen the true appearance of the great Lotus Venerable on White Mountain. The great Lotus Venerable's voice that he had heard before was not quite the same as before. Sumo slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, he had no idea what had just happened. His memory stopped at the moment when he and the treasures flew into the soul depository cauldron. After that, he didn't feel anything else. Before that, he had realized that he might be refined along with the treasures. At the same time, the moment he opened his eyes, he felt the changes in himself. His body was filled with endless lotus energy. There was actually a golden lotus in his core C. The 7th stage of the lotus realm. This was an existence that he didn't even dare to imagine before. However, other than the cosmos sac and the soul depository cauldron, the rest of the lianbua on him had disappeared. They had completely fused with Sumo's body. At the same time, the rainbow god lotus that Li Shui had given him had also disappeared. It had also been refined by the soul depository cauldron. Fortunately, Sumo was now a lotus knight at the 7th stage. The rainbow god lotus had lost its value to Sumo. The golden lotus, the lotus of the golden body, the lotus of the Dharmaraja. Sumo didn't know who had given him this opportunity, but he heard the oracle's voice. Reincarnation of life and death, cast the soul for 10,000 lifetimes. The lotus blooms and falls, only then will your body be formed. No matter who it was, Sumo was filled with gratitude. At the same time, he understood that perhaps this was something that he had exchanged for many lifetimes of reincarnation. And this current life would be the end of everything. Because there was no more reincarnation for a lotus knight. This last life would also be the most meaningful one. With a thought, Sumo first put away the cosmos sac. Fortunately, everything else inside was still intact. He Yu Hong, the purple puppet, and the rest were all safe and sound. Especially Wu Er, who was lying peacefully in the cosmos sac. Xiao Huang's shadow was not damaged either. As long as they were here, everything was fine. Thus, Sumo waved his hand and put away the soul depository cauldron. Then, he looked at the corpse Taoist. At this time, the corpse Taoist had not left. Because he had already seen Bai Lai and Master Mu. If it was only Bai Lai, he might still be able to leave. But with Master Mu here, the corpse Taoist knew that he would not be able to leave today. Moreover, Sumo had already reached the 7th stage of the Lotus Realm. But he was not afraid. So what if he died? As long as his death was meaningful to the Black Lotus, he was willing to die. At this time, he transformed himself into the appearance of the corpse Taoist. Even in death, he must have some dignity. The corpse Taoist. Sumo looked at the corpse Taoist and said softly. Actually, his voice was not loud, but to the Wuchi Taoist, it sounded like thunder. The demon king of the 3 realms. The corpse Taoist smiled indifferently. It seems that you are the one who will die today. Sumo said, I have already achieved the golden body of a law emperor. The corpse Taoist laughed dryly. So what? You have great fortune, but I, the corpse Taoist, have only respected one person in my life, and that is the heartless Black Lotus. Even if the great Lotus Venerable came, I would not listen to him. Whoosh, the corpse Taoist did not speak again. Instead, with a determined expression, he twisted his body and charged straight at Sumo. In fact, he was still the puppet body, but his body was glowing with golden light. This puppet body was the last thing the corpse Taoist had. He was making one last attempt. Whoosh, the corpse Taoist's body glowed with gray light. He wanted to try and perish together with Sumo. As he charged at Sumo, he chose to explode this puppet body. However, he had thought too much. The corner of Sumo's mouth curved. At the same time, he raised his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Then, Sumo took a step forward and punched at the corpse Taoist. Golden Dragon Fist? Master Mu could not help but chuckle. Old Bai, isn't that the fist of old Feng Luanba? Yes. Bai Lai nodded. Sumo probably has not used this fist in a long time. The same fist, executed by a different realm, is completely different. This time, we don't have to do anything. Boom, crack, boom, as expected, the corpse Taoist exploded in front of Sumo. The soaring lotus power was his final radiance. His death had a greater impact than the death of Qing Lianzi. A battle, the death of two high-level lotus warriors, was something that had not happened for tens of thousands of years. However, the corpse Taoist's self-destruction did not harm Sumo at all. This was because Sumo's punch had directly dispersed the power of his self-destruction. A new black hole appeared in the universe. That was the power of Sumo's punch. Master Mu shook his head lightly, while Bai Lai was somewhat dumbfounded. Chapter 1045. With just one punch, he created a black hole in the galaxy. Even Master Mu would be left in the dust by such power. After all, he was not Venerable Falian. Looks like I have to go back to the village too. Bai Lai chuckled. With Sumo's current cultivation level and combat ability, I won't be able to deal with any cultivator he can't deal with. So, he doesn't need my protection anymore. It's good to go back to the village. Old Bai, I reckon you can still enjoy some peace and live the life of a mortal. Master Mu sighed. Enjoy peace and live the life of a mortal? Bai Lai chuckled. Master Mu, since you think so, why didn't you go back after leaving the village back then? Old Bai, there are many places that you only know are the best after leaving them. When you want to go back, it's already beyond your control. If you go back, please send my regards to the people in town. And the few from East Fence Village, please send my regards too. Master Mu said to Bai Lai. I really hope that I never have to go back to town. Goodbye. Master Mu did not say anything else. He turned around and headed straight for the depths of vast universe. His pace was slow. The empty galaxy made his figure appear even more lonely. Ferryman of White Mountain. This was a position that many Lotus scholars viewed as incomparably glorious. Not only did it bring him glory, it also brought him many other things. What he bore was far greater than what other cultivators could imagine. I really hope that I never have to go back to town. Bai Lai looked at Master Mu's back and pondered over his words. He could not help but sigh deeply, because he understood that once Master Mu returned to town, it could mean that the sky had changed. The sky had changed. To a high-level Lotus scholar like Bai Lai, this was actually a legend. None of them had ever seen a true sky change. What exactly was a sky change? They could not explain it either. However, a sky change would definitely be a disaster. Boom, boom. Actually, while Master Mu and Bai Lai were talking, the entire galaxy did not stop shaking. Sumo's punch created a black hole. That black hole had already started devouring everything around it. All of Taoist Corpse's power had been devoured by the black hole. Bumiaotian was still standing in the sky. However, at this moment, he was in a completely absent-minded state. His eyes were empty, without any light. He was Taoist Corpse's puppet. With the corpse Taoist dead, theoretically speaking, Bumiaotian had lost her life force as well. However, he was a lotus puppet. Moreover, Sumo's power had protected him. Therefore, he was not swallowed by the black hole. Bumiao was truly a walking corpse now. Sumo looked at Bumiaotian with a complicated expression. Then, he waved his hand and put Bumiaotian into his cosmos bag. Bumyaotian was not completely dead. However, it was unknown whether he could recover his divine sense or not. In a way, Bumyaotian was a pitiful person. Sumo put him away because she hoped that one day when she met Yu Wuhui, he would give Bumyaotian to her. Or, Sumo would send Bumyaotian back to the Pure Land Star region. After all, Bu Shinkong and Bu Wuhui were still in the Pure Land Star region. Now, Bu Wuhui had been sealed for a long time. Bai Lai. At this moment, Sumo took a step forward and arrived in front of Bai Lai. Bai Lai did not plan to leave. He looked at Sumo with a smile. Bai Lai noticed that the white mountain mark between Sumo's eyebrows gradually disappeared. It was the white mountain token. Little Su, not bad. Bai Lai said with a smile. You've been following me? Sumo said. I haven't been following you. Bai Lai said, it's just that I've been traveling in the Yizong world. My purpose here is to be able to arrive in time if something happens to you. However, it doesn't seem to be very useful. Every time something happens to you, it basically turns the situation around and turns misfortune into fortune. Haha. Sumo laughed bitterly. Life and death, death and life and death. Actually, I'm willing to sing triumphantly and be invincible all the way. Soon. Bai Lai smiled. Now that you're a Lotus Knight Stage 7, the key is that you have the Dharmaraja golden body. In the entire Yizong world, there are only a handful of people who can fight against you. What's the realm of Black Lotus? Sumo asked. Now, he should be at Dharmaraja realm. Bai Lai said, although this Dharmaraja Yizong is not recognized, his realm is indeed at Dharmaraja realm. Above Lotus Knight is Dharmaraja? Sumo said. That's right. Bai Lai replied. What about above Dharmaraja? Sumo asked again. Above Dharmaraja is Heavenly Venerable Great Lotus, Bai Lai said. However, that is an existence that surpasses the Yizong world. Heavenly Venerable Great Lotus can only exist in the true law realm. But I've heard of the Yizong Dharmaraja? Sumo said. Actually, that's not wrong. Because the Yizong world has a technique that leads to the true law realm, many cultivators are willing to call the Yizong world the true law realm, Bai Lai said. The universe is boundless. Although we are Lotus Knights, we can't see it clearly. Is there a realm above Heavenly Venerable Great Lotus? Sumo asked. Haha. Bai Lai shook his head. Sumo, do you think there's a realm above the true law realm? There must be. Sumo said with certainty. Because he believed in infinity. That's right. Bai Lai nodded. There must be a realm above Heavenly Venerable Great Lotus. However, I don't know what it is. Maybe one day you'll get the answer when you climb White Mountain. Sumo nodded. Who was that masked cultivator just now? Sumo asked again. Master Mu. Bai Lai smiled. He was originally a carpenter in Luo Fan Town's East Fence village. However, he was chosen by White Mountain. He's the ferryman of White Mountain. The ferryman of White Mountain. Sumo frowned slightly. Because he thought of Nan Yuan. Yes, the ferryman of White Mountain. Bai Lai said. There's a sea outside White Mountain called the Perfume Sea. There are many world lotuses growing on the Perfume Sea. On the Perfume Sea, even the Dharmaraja Venerable can't fly. Therefore, to go up White Mountain, one can only take a special boat. Master Mu can build a boat that travels on the Perfume Sea. Sumo guessed. Haha. That's right. Bai Lai said, Master Mu has profound dermic powers and is good at building boats. You've probably heard of the most powerful boat he built. What kind of boat? Sumo said. Immeasurable. Bai Lai smiled. I heard that back then, the other lotus soul in the three realms was taken away by the immeasurable boat. Immeasurable boat. Sumo couldn't help but be shocked. Because that boat was an absolutely heaven-defying existence. It was actually made by the masked Master Mu. Back then, Amu did indeed leave the three realms on the immeasurable boat, Sumo said. However, he must have met with an accident. Otherwise, he should be the one who was recognized to be able to ascend White Mountain. Bai Lai said. The immeasurable boat doesn't ferry nameless people. Someone attacked the immeasurable boat. Sumo said, I've been on that boat. There are traces of a battle on it. Attacked the immeasurable boat? Bai Lai laughed coldly. Then it must be Black Lotus Heartless who did it. In the Izong world, there's no one else who has that kind of ability and courage. Black Lotus Heartless. That's right. Bai Lai nodded. Black Lotus' name is Heartless. He sealed the other three-world Lotus Soul and has always wanted to kill you, all for the sake of purifying the Izong world and connecting to the true Law realm. He won't succeed. Sumo's eyes narrowed slightly, and the white mountain mark on her forehead couldn't help but flash. Chapter 1046. The smoke dissipated and the black hole rotated. At this time, Sumo, dressed in white, stood alone among the stars. There was nothing around him. Everything was swallowed up by the black hole. Bai Lai had also left. He was going back to the windmill village. However, he left Sumo the travel permit to Luofan town. Now, Sumo was already an advanced Lotus Knight. If he wanted, he could go to the windmill village in Luofan town at any time. However, if he really entered Luofan town, it would not be easy to come back to the various worlds. After all, Luofan town had its own rules. Therefore, although Sumo missed the senior brothers and sisters in the windmill village, he would not go there easily. The reason why Bai Lai stayed in Izong was because of Sumo. Now that Sumo was no longer needed, he naturally chose to return to the village. In Luofan town, he could really be immortal. That kind of peace and happiness could not be found anywhere else. After Bai Lai left, Sumo clasped his hands behind his back and gradually calmed down. After all, everything about him had changed significantly. He still had to find Amu. However, when he asked Bai Lai also did not know where Amu was sealed. The place where Amu was sealed seemed to be a mystery. The only clue to Sumo was the glaze world that the white-robed king told him. Apart from that, no one had any news about Amu. Perhaps he could only ask Black Lotus Heartless himself. However, no one knew where Heartless was. Therefore, Sumo stood among the stars, somewhat at a loss. At the same time, after Bai Lai left, he remembered that he should ask Bai Lai two things. One was about the identity of Wang Shui, because his Baishan decree was given to him by Wang Shui. The other was who Old Ghost Zong was. The corpse Taoist mentioned Old Ghost Zong. Unfortunately, when Sumo asked, Bai Lai didn't even know which realm he was in. This time, Bai Lai could leave boldly without worry. Therefore, he walked very fast. Sumo was a Lotus Knight 7th layer and a Dharmaraja golden body. Who in the Izong world would dare to provoke him? Bai Lai was not the only one who thought so. Mr. Ren and the scholar, who were by the Guanshur Lake, also thought so. By the Goddess Lake, Mr. Ren dispersed the scene on the surface of the lake and kept his fishing rod. Then, he stretched himself and said, Scholar, I'm going back to rest. 2 high-level Lotus Knights had fallen in this battle, but it was finally over. With Sumo's golden body, no one would dare to provoke him anymore. Let's wait and see what happens in the future. And the scholar nodded in agreement. Let's go. I'm going back to rest as well. I'm a little tired after these 3 days. Thus, the two of them left the lake together. However, there were many things in the various realms that did not make sense. Sumo pondered for a while in the interstellar space, then decided to make a trip back to the abode of the soul-storing altar. Previously, he had asked the little white pig to bring Wang Yu and Shen Ming back to the abode of the soul-storing altar. He had to go back and check on the situation first. Now, Sumo was already at the Lotus Realm 7th layer. His understanding of the miraculous steps had reached a new level. At this moment, he also understood that the abode of the soul-storing altar was a special spacetime. Like the southern abyss sea, it did not belong to the Izong world. However, in the Izong world, one could reach the abode of the Izong world through spacetime transformations. The soul-storing altar was a special, small world. Originally, if Sumo wanted to return to the abode of the soul-storing altar, he would have to take a total of 49 steps. However, now that Sumo was well versed in everything, his understanding of spacetime had reached a new level. Now, he only needed 3 steps to return to the abode of the soul-storing altar. Now, this abode of the soul-storing altar could really be considered as his portable abode. 1 step. With 1 step, Sumo completely left the Glaze realm. At this moment, he was in a special world. To be precise, it was a spacetime tunnel. His surroundings were blank, there was nothing. 2 steps. The scene in front of Sumo suddenly changed. He had arrived in another spacetime tunnel. In the distance, he could see many stars in the distance. To Sumo, this was also a strange world. With 1 more step, he could return to the abode of the soul-storing altar. However, just as he was about to take a step, he heard a voice in the void. "Demon King, wait." Sumo could not help but be stunned. At the same time, his footsteps stopped. When he looked again, right in front of him, there was a cultivator in black slowly walking over. It was a tall and thin figure. He walked over slowly. His background was made up of many stars. At that moment, he seemed to have come from the depths of the endless universe. Sumo stood in place without moving. His eyes narrowed slightly. That cultivator in black was a stage 7 Lotus Knight. At the same time, his eye sockets were empty. He was actually blind. The Black Blind Hermit. Bai Lai had mentioned him before, but this was the first time Sumo had met him. The aura emitted by the Black Blind Hermit made Sumo's heart skip a beat. Because, although they were both stage 7 Lotus Knights, the Black Blind Hermit's aura was even stronger than Taoist corpses. The Black Blind Hermit stood 100 feet in front of Sumo. "The Black Blind Hermit?" Sumo asked. "That's right. Some people also call me the Black Blind Hermit." The Black Blind Hermit looked at Sumo and sighed. "I didn't expect that in such a short time, you would actually advance to the stage 7 Lotus Knight?" Sumo laughed coldly. "What, did I disappoint you, the Black Blind Hermit?" "Not really." The Black Blind Hermit shook his head. "You killed a few of my swordsmen, and also Taoist corpse. So, you and I must fight. The stage 7 Lotus Knight, everything is just right. This way, no one will stop me anymore." "Oh." Sumo raised her eyebrows. "In the 5 Poisons world, I wanted to kill you. Unfortunately, I was stopped by the enforcers of Luofan town." The Black Blind Hermit said, "Now, this is no longer a hidden world, and you have already attained the golden body of a law emperor. So, this is a good opportunity to kill you." Your words are very interesting." Sumo said, "You actually think that this is an opportunity. I want to ask, where is the Black Lotus?" "I'm afraid you are not qualified to meet the king," the Black Blind Hermit said. Sumo shook her head. "Then, I will kill you. I heard that you and Taoist corpse are his left and right arms. I will kill both of you. I think the Black Lotus will personally take action." At this point, Sumo didn't want to talk anymore. He would just kill the people of the Black Lotus. Sumo's figure moved, directly moving forward. Now, he no longer had the attacking Lianhua on his body. However, his body was Lianhua. So, Sumo's move was very simple. He suddenly moved forward, punching out. Golden Dragon Fist. That punch was enough to shake the universe. Since the Black Blind Hermit was here, he was naturally prepared. However, he definitely didn't dare to meet force with Sumo. Looking again, between the stars, his body turned, avoiding Sumo's sharp edge. At the same time, with a pinch of one hand, a black bamboo stick appeared in his hand. Whoosh, he pushed the bamboo stick forward, directly aiming at the space between Sumo's eyebrows. The black blind hermit knew that the current Sumo had already attained the golden lotus body. There were very few places on his body that could be attacked. However, he didn't expect that the corner of Sumo's mouth would curve, directly facing his black bamboo stick. The space between his eyebrows was facing the black bamboo stick. From the black blind hermit's point of view, Sumo was crazy. Chapter 1047. Samsara of the Ichizo has not been updated today. Currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1048. Was Sumo crazy? Of course, Sumo was not crazy. The one who was crazy was probably the black blind monk. His black bamboo staff was a top-notch lianhua. Even though Sumo had Law Emperor golden body, the space between his eyebrows should be his weakness. How could Sumo dare to face his black bamboo staff with the space between his eyebrows? However, he did not have much time to think. Sumo's body whistled through the air. Boom, the black bamboo staff hit Sumo's forehead. However, the black blind monk felt his arm go numb. To be honest, he did not know how many years it had been since he felt this kind of pain. Because he could run amok in a hidden world without a rival. At that moment, he felt like a mortal holding a bamboo pole and hitting an iron plate. The black blind monk could not believe it. There was only blinding white light in front of him. He did not know that there was a white mountain token between Sumo's eyebrows. And the white mountain token was an existence that the top-notch lianhua couldn't touch. Whoosh, at this moment, Sumo's fist had arrived. The fist went straight for the black blind monk's heart. The current Sumo was not the same as before. Against the black blind monk, he did not need to form hand seals. This fist could solve almost everything. The entire galaxy trembled and twisted. It was as if all the power in the surrounding galaxy was mobilized by Sumo and condensed into his fist. At that moment, the black blind monk finally understood that he no longer had the ability to kill Sumo. Originally, he wanted to kill Sumo even if he had to risk his life. He was afraid that others would stop him, so he deliberately found a space-time where he thought he could kill Sumo. Unfortunately, he was wrong. He underestimated Sumo. He would die under Sumo's fist, just like the corpse Daoist. In fact, he did not understand why Sumo became so powerful. Was Sumo becoming the spokesperson of White Mountain? All these thoughts flashed through the black blind monk's mind. At the same time, he was desperately retreating. That kind of retreat was a kind of instinct. The universe was boundless, and the black blind monk could even traverse space and time. However, he couldn't dodge Sumo's fist. The reason for that was because all of the surrounding power had been sealed by that one punch. Sumo's lips curled up slightly. Anyone would like this feeling. In front of you, the enemy did not even have the ability to fight back. Power. That was the power that Sumo had always desired. Now, he finally had it. The distance between him and Black Blind Hermit was constantly shrinking. 100 zhang, 10 zhang, 3 zhang. The speed at which Black Blind Daoist retreated was far faster than Sumo's speed. Moreover, Sumo hadn't even used her full strength yet. Because Sumo still wanted to wait. Perhaps Black Blind Hermit still had some tricks up his sleeves. 30 feet. Bang! The black robe on Black Blind Hermit's chest had already fallen apart. This was the Black Blind Monk, a level 7 Lotus Realm cultivator. If it were an ordinary level 5 Lotus Realm cultivator, Sumo would have killed him from 1,000 feet away. Whoosh! At that moment, a golden pendant on Black Blind Hermit's chest suddenly lit up with a dazzling brilliance. It was a golden fish-shaped pendant. Bang! The pendant fell apart. The goldfish token. However, Sumo didn't recognize it. Back then, the second-rank swordsman, Li Mu, had come to kill Sumo under the Black Blind Hermit's Silverfish token. Apart from the Silverfish token, Black Blind Hermit also had a Goldfish token. However, he had never used this Goldfish token before, because he only had one chance to use the Goldfish token. Today, he had only activated the Goldfish token in the face of death, because he was in an absolute passive situation. Boom, golden light flashed and appeared in front of Black Blind Hermit like a golden screen. At the last moment, this golden screen actually blocked Sumo's punch. The starry sky shook and all the stars shook. Sumo couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. What a powerful force! At the same time, a dark glint flashed across his eyes. It seemed that his earlier prediction was right. Black Blind Hermit indeed had a backup plan. Was the Black Lotus heartless? However, this golden screen wasn't the power of the ordinary Black Lotus. It was a completely different kind of power. Moreover, this power gave Sumo a strange feeling. Looking again, Black Blind Hermit borrowed the golden screen's interception and instantly escaped to a very far distance. However, he didn't escape right away. From the golden screen, a cultivator slowly walked out. It turned out to be a cultivator covered in endless golden light. That golden light was very special. It covered the cultivator from head to toe. Suemo furrowed his brows slightly, because even in his eyes, all he could see was the golden light. He couldn't see through the cultivator's clothes or appearance. That cultivator was completely covered in golden light. Even his cultivation level was concealed. That was definitely a special cultivator. Who are you? Sumo looked at the cultivator covered in golden light and calmly asked. Number 1 Swordsman. The cultivator covered in golden light's voice was a little fleeting, as if he was thousands of miles away. Number 1 Swordsman. Sumo sneered and nodded. It seemed that this was Black Blind Hermit's final trump card. However, Sumo didn't expect the number 1 swordsman under Black Blind Hermit to be even stronger than Black Blind Hermit himself. This was really a strange thing. Number 1, kill him, Black Blind Hermit said coldly from behind. At this moment, Black Blind Hermit's face was slightly pale, but it wasn't a big deal. After all, he only exchanged one move with Sumo and Sumo's punch didn't really hit him. It could be said that Black Blind Hermit's combat strength was completely there. Working together with the number 1 swordsman, he had absolute confidence in killing Sumo. However, after hearing his words, the number 1 swordsman actually didn't move at all. Black Blind, your goldfish token has been broken. The number 1 swordsman said, Don't tell me you've forgotten our agreement. That goldfish token can only be used once and you used it to save yourself just now. So, I don't have to carry out your orders anymore. When Black Blind Hermit heard this, his expression changed slightly. However, what the number 1 swordsman said was right. That was the reason why he was reluctant to use the number 1 swordsman. The number 1 swordsman was different from other swordsmen. He was not a swordsman trained by Black Blind Hermit, but Black Blind Hermit once owed the number 1 swordsman a favor. Therefore, the number 1 swordsman gave him such an opportunity. Otherwise, how could a person like the number 1 swordsman listen to his orders? The number 1 swordsman was unfathomable. However, the more it was like this, the more Black Blind Hermit was unwilling to use him easily. He wanted to save that opportunity for the most critical moment. This time, he thought he could kill Sumo. He wanted to leave that opportunity to Black Lotus. However, he didn't expect that Sumo was too strong. Black Blind didn't care about his life. He thought that using the number 1 swordsman to save himself was a great waste. However, it was already too late. Number 1, you're right. Black Blind Hermit finally nodded gently. But, at present, my life is still in danger. He wants to kill me. This time, I will protect you. He can't kill you. But, next time, I may not be able to save you. The number 1 swordsman said. Good. Black Blind Hermit nodded. As long as there's life, there's hope. Take me away. Yes. The number 1 swordsman responded. Immediately, that golden light directly rolled up Black Blind Hermit. However, how could Sumo let him go like this? Don't go. Whoosh, Sumo punched out again, heading straight for the number 1 swordsman. He naturally wanted to stop her from taking away Black Blind Hermit. However, he didn't expect that the number 1 swordsman's speed was far faster than Sumo's. In an instant, he rolled up Black Blind Hermit. Moreover, the number 1 swordsman could actually wave his hand, directly waving out a golden light to meet Sumo's fist wind. The number 1 swordsman was so powerful? Boom! Sumo's fist collided with that golden light. However, they only caused a slight interstellar vibration. Because the power of that golden light was just right, just enough to counteract Sumo's power. The number 1 swordsman and Black Blind Hermit had disappeared. Sumo's expression was somewhat strange. He looked at his fist, on which there was a trace of green light slowly dissipating. Chapter 1049. First Swordsman. Sumo looked at the place where First Swordsman and Black Blind Swordsman disappeared, and then looked at the green light that disappeared from his hand, the corner of his mouth slightly curved. He didn't chase after them because there was no need to. He knew that Black Blind Swordsman might not live for long. Sumo took a deep breath, then stepped out and went straight to the Soul Storage Altar Cave. An unknown place. That was the place where Black Blind Swordsman used to cultivate. There were only a few soul lamps left around him. Just to deal with Sumo, the Black Lotus branch could be said to have suffered a heavy loss. Black Blind Swordsman had changed into a new black robe. First Swordsman was still standing not far from him with a golden light. Mysterious and powerful. First Swordsman, thank you this time. Black Blind Swordsman sighed. Black Blind, you are welcome. I just fulfilled the previous promise. First Swordsman said, but you wasted that goldfish token. Hee hee. Black Blind Swordsman smiled bitterly. Using you to save me, you should know that it was not my wish. Black Blind, sometimes you can't be too greedy. First Swordsman said lightly, actually, that goldfish token was originally a protective talisman for you. Black Blind Swordsman didn't hear the hidden meaning of First Swordsman, but nodded his head. However, this kind of realization usually comes after greed. Hee hee. I have been thinking that even if I have to risk my life to kill Sumo, I didn't expect that he is so powerful now. You can't kill him, First Swordsman said calmly. And Black Blind Swordsman nodded again, then turned to First Swordsman and said, then can you? Me? First Swordsman chuckled. At present, I can kill anyone below Falian King. Although he has Law King Golden Body, he is still not my opponent. Black Blind Swordsman's body trembled slightly. He knew that First Swordsman never talked big. If he said he can, then he can. However, he noticed that First Swordsman used the word, at present. What about in the future? Black Blind Swordsman said. In the future? First Swordsman said, in the future, I can kill Falian King if I want. Black Blind Hermit frowned. Once again, he felt the terror of the number 1 swordsman. First, I have a favor to ask of you. The Black Blind Warrior took a deep breath and said slowly. What is it? Help me kill Sumo, the Black Blind Great Scholar said. The number 1 swordsman laughed again. Black Blind, you should understand that the price of making me take action is very high. I've already repaid the favor I owe you. I understand. The Black Blind Scholar nodded. Then what can you give me? The First Swordsman asked. Tell me your request. The Black Blind Master said. As long as I can do it, I will agree to it. Really? The First Swordsman asked. Of course. Black Blind Hermit raised his head slightly. Because he knew that number 1 swordsman's question meant that he could take out what number 1 swordsman needed. The First Swordsman was silent for a while. Both of them did not speak. It was obvious that the swordsman was thinking about whether or not he should make that request. The sound of wind. There was only the sound of the wind in the entire unknown place. Black Blind Hermit was waiting for the first swordsman's request. This was the only way he could think of to kill Sumo. Black Blind, I can help you kill Sumo. The first swordsman finally spoke. Your request. Black Blind Hermit said. I want to know the sealed place of the other lotus soul of the three realms, Amu. The first swordsman said. Huh. When Black Blind Hermit heard this, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. Because, in any case, he did not expect that the first swordsman would make such a request. Are you from the Three Realms Galaxy? The first swordsman shook his head. Black Blind, what we are doing is a deal. Whether I am from the Three Realms Galaxy or not has nothing to do with this deal. In short, I have my own purpose. You tell me the sealed place of Amu, and I will help you kill Sumo. Black Blind Hermit's face was a bit solemn. He knew the sealed place of Amu. However, if the first swordsman was really a cultivator of the three realms, would he still help him kill Sumo? So, Black Blind Hermit was very hesitant. Black Blind, don't hesitate. The first swordsman understood what he was thinking. Looking again, the first swordsman moved his hand slightly, and a part of the golden light on his body actually separated like a stream of water, directly flowing to Black Blind Hermit's feet. Black Blind Hermit's expression changed, because he suddenly found that his body could no longer move at all. He could not spread out his divine sense either. Imprison. Black Blind Hermit had expected the first swordsman to be strong. However, he never thought that the first swordsman could imprison him so easily. He was a Peak Lotus Knight Tier 7. Peak Lotus Knight Tier? Half-Step Law Emperor. If Black Blind Hermit's eyes could shine, then he would definitely be looking at the first swordsman in horror. Just now, the first swordsman had said, I can kill anyone below the level of Dharma Lotus King. This was the best proof. Black Blind, you've saved me once. So, I don't want to use any tricks on you. The first swordsman said, You should understand that I've already imprisoned you. You don't even have the chance to self-destruct. You no longer have the goldfish token, so I can search your soul and get the answer I want. However, I still have a trace of respect for you. I don't want to kill you. So, I'll give you a chance to make a deal. Black Blind Hermit was silent. At this moment, he finally understood the value of the goldfish token. With the current gap in their realm, the first swordsman could kill him as easily as turning his hand. Unless Heartless came personally, there was no way to deal with the first swordsman. Amu is sealed under Heartless Peak, Black Blind Hermit said. Heartless Peak. The first swordsman seemed to be stunned. There doesn't seem to be such a place in the Izang realm? Of course not. Black Blind Hermit could not help but laugh. Looks like you've been looking for him for a long time. Amu wasn't sealed in the Izang realm in the first place. How could the Black Lotus King be at ease to seal such a person in the Izang realm? The first swordsman nodded. Looks like everything before was just a smokescreen. Where is Heartless Peak? Heartless Peak is in the Heartless 3000 world, Black Blind Hermit said, and the Heartless 3000 world is the world directly under the Black Lotus King. It is independent of the Izang realm, but it is made up of 3000 small worlds. The Black Lotus King created that world and cultivated the Law Lotus King in that world. Heartless Peak is in the center of the Heartless 3000 world. Black Lotus is indeed powerful, the first swordsman said. He can actually deceive the heavens. Then how do we get to the Heartless realm? In the Glaze realm, there is a dark realm called Black Lotus. Inside the Black Lotus, there is a space-time door that leads to the Heartless realm. Black Lotus said. Give me the Black Lotus proof. The first swordsman said. In my storage. Black Lotus Hermit said. I can't use my divine sense, you can take it yourself. There is a black lotus token inside. The first swordsman thought, he can actually take something from the black lotus hermit storage. When he looked again, a pitch-black token flew out. The first swordsman took the token and looked at it to see if it was real. Black Blind, you are indeed the person Black Lotus trusts the most. This token is the only one in the Yizang realm, right? That's right. Black Blind Hermit nodded and said, First, I have to warn you. The Heartless Peak is guarded by the Black Lotus King. Even if it is you, you will not be able to return. The first swordsman said, Black Blind, I didn't say that I want to go. Our deal is a success. Goodbye. With that, the first swordsman disappeared with a flash of golden light. However, Black Blind Hermit still couldn't move. However, the golden light turned into green light. The rays of green light had actually sealed him in this unknown place. Chapter 1050. The Soul-Storing Altar Cave Abode. Sumo returned to the cave abode in one step. He still appeared in the front cave. Humph humph. The moment he appeared, the little white pig pounced over. It seemed that the little fellow had been guarding the front cave, waiting for Sumo to return. Humph humph. The little white pig was extremely excited, because it knew very well the circumstances under which Sumo had left back then. It had always been thinking about Sumo. Most importantly, it had been a long time. Sumo. At this time, Wang Yu's voice came from the back cave. Looking again, Wang Yu and Shen Ming had directly arrived at the front cave. They had never left since the little white pig brought them here. Time passed quickly. 300 years had passed in the soul-storing altar. Although this place was full of spirit energy, their cultivation had not improved. Because what they lacked was not spirit energy, but the final state of mind. Demon King. Shen Ming examined Sumo. Your realm. They clearly felt Sumo's change, but could not see through it. Right now, the difference between them and Sumo was too great. Sumo, did you cultivate the legendary golden body of Dharmaraja? Wang Yu frowned. Her ghost eye was able to see some clues. Ha ha. Sumo nodded. Your ghost eye is very powerful. In these years, what happened outside? Wang Yu asked. All these years? Sumo was slightly taken aback. Ming and I have stayed in this cave abode for at least 300 years. Wang Yu said. That long? Sumo frowned. She naturally understood that the time here was different from the time in Yizang. At the same time, Sumo spread out her consciousness and carefully examined this cave abode again. At this moment, he finally felt that this soul storage altar cave abode was like a small world outside of the first realm. In fact, it was originally a part of Yizang's world, but someone used a great power to separate it from Yizang's spacetime. The cave abode of the soul storing altar had been spinning continuously in the world of one treasury. It was rotating on its own, and at the same time, it was also rotating rapidly around the center of the Ikazang world. However, when one was in the cave, one wouldn't feel this kind of rotation. Yizang old ghost? Sumo recalled the words of the corpse Taoist. The cultivator who left behind the soul storage altar cave must have been a peak-level cultivator. Unfortunately, Sumo did not know what kind of person he was. Wang Yu and Shen Ming were waiting for Sumo's reply. Therefore, Sumo briefly explained what happened before. Although Sumo's words were simple, Wang Yu and Shen Ming's hearts were already shaken. 2 high-level Lotus Knights had fallen? The corpse Taoist was blown to smithereens by Sumo's punch? That was something they would never have dared to imagine before. However, it was definitely a good thing that Sumo had advanced to the 7th stage of the Lotus Knight realm, and at the same time attained the golden body of Dharmaraja. The 3 of them talked as they walked to the back cave. Nothing much had changed in the back cave. The ancient bathing immortal lotus was already very strong. The various immortal fruits in the flower bed were still flourishing. Sumo strode into the flower bed, and at the same time, He waved his hand and plucked many immortal fruits, giving them to Wang Yu, Shen Ming, and the little white pig. Su Mo had already recognized all of those immortal fruit. However, now that he looked at those immortal fruits again, he no longer felt that they were so rare. Realm, absolute structure. In the end, Sumo still arrived at the bottom of the black cliff. Under the black cliff, 7 spots of white light flickered. 7 red spider lilies, their branches and leaves intertwined, covering each other. They were crystal clear, flawless and pure white. The flower of the netherworld, red spider lilies. They are red spider lilies? Wang Yu asked from outside the flower bed. Yes. Sumo nodded with a smile. The Bai siblings can be reincarnated? Wang Yu was a little surprised. Actually, she had never really seen the Bai siblings, but she had heard of their stories. As long as I'm here, they're here. Sumo smiled. They've already started. I can wake them up at any time. Then what are you waiting for? Wang Yu asked, puzzled. I'm waiting for an opportunity that requires them to wake up, Sumo said seriously. What realm will they be in when they wake up? Wang Yu asked again. Lotus realm. The corner of Sumo's mouth curled up. Because they will improve along with my realm. As she spoke, Sumo waved a hand. Whoosh, looking at the 7 red spider lilies, they suddenly lit up with endless brilliance. 7 figures in white appeared on the 7 red spider lilies. 2 men and 5 women. All of them were dressed in snow-white robes and looked peerless. However, their eyes were slightly closed, and their expressions were serene. White-robed meditation cultivators. Shen Ming muttered to himself. The 7 red spider lilies. Wang Yu could not help but raise an eyebrow. They were the strongest meditation cultivators in the 3 realms. They knew that Bai Xiaoqi was an existence that could only compete with supremacies in the 3 realms era. Bai Liusu, Bai Yang, Bai Shuang, Bai Xiaoxi, Bai Xiaowu, Bai Xiaolu, and Bai Xiaoqi. Their divine souls were all reflected in their flower bud. At that moment it was truly a magnificent sight. Liusu, I will let you wake up when you need it the most. And when you wake up, you will become the strongest cultivators in this world, Sumo said softly as she looked at their souls. And I might not need you to fight. Then, Sumo walked out of the flower bed. Sumo, what do you plan to do next? Wang Yu asked. You guys continue cultivating here. I'm going to find Mu, Sumo said. When Wang Yu heard that, she did not say that she wanted to follow. Instead, she bit her lower lip. Shen Ming looked at her sister in silence. Wang Yu now understood that if they insisted on following Sumo, they would already be a burden to Sumo. Their realms were no longer suitable for them to move at the same time as Sumo. Sumo, do you have any new clues about my brother? Wang Yu asked. Not yet, but there should be soon. Sumo said. What do you mean? Wang Yu asked. Let's wait and see. Sumo said. The moment there is news of Sumo, once there's news about Sumo, I'll take action very soon. Sumo, we can return to the village with Minger. It will be safer in the village, Wang Yu said. That way you won't have to worry about us. Return to the galaxy village? Sumo asked. Can you go back? Yes. When Minger and I were reincarnated, we carried a forbidden map from my father. Once the forbidden map is opened, we will automatically return to the village. Okay. Sumo nodded. Maybe I will have news about Sumo soon. After that, you guys can go back and bring news about Sumo back to the galaxy village. Yes. Wang Yu nodded. At that moment, a green light suddenly lit up in Sumo's palm. It was the green light left by the number 1 swordsman. Looking again, there were many runes inside the green light. It was a special language of the galaxy language. Sumo naturally understood it. Sumo's mouth curled up, and a smile appeared on her face. Everything was going according to his plan. Miss Yu, bring this back to the galaxy village. There is news about Amu here. Devil Lang and Songhai will understand. As she spoke, Sumo flipped her hand and sent a green light into Wang Yu's hand. Chapter 1051. Samsara of the Ichizo has not been updated today. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1052. Inside the cave, only Sumo was left. Wang Yu and Shen Ming had already left. They brought the wisp of green light that Sumo gave them back to Luo Fan Town's Star River Village. Amu's news would be brought back soon. Looking around the cave, Sumo did not really awaken the spider lilies. Although they could all be Lotus warriors now, Sumo decided not to wake them up for now. Heartless 3,000 worlds. That was the territory of Black Lotus. It must be a dangerous place. Even Sumo could not guarantee that nothing would happen, let alone ordinary Lotus Realm cultivators. Now, Sumo's thinking was different. He did not want to wake up the spider lilies and ask them to go to war. Instead, he hoped that when they woke up, they would be in a peaceful world. However, it was unknown how many cultivators would die in a peaceful world. Taking a deep breath, Sumo left the cave with a single thought. The place where he appeared was not the Glaze world, but the Wisdom world. Sumo wanted to go to two places first before returning to the Glaze world. Wisdom world. From afar, Sumo saw the huge plum tree in the universe. It was a huge object in the universe. It was bigger than an ordinary star. Plum world. That was the world that Yuluo used the plum blossom staff to create. For thousands of years, Yuluo had been cultivating here. Sumo looked at the plum tree and did not go over. However, with Sumo's divine sense, he could clearly see the plum world. The 36 peaks of the apricot realm were brimming with vitality and exuberance. The cultivators on the peak lived and worked in peace, the country was prosperous and the people were at peace. Under the plum tree, Yuluo sat cross-legged with her eyes closed. All these years, she had been cultivating here. She had never taken a step out of the plum world. She was the god of the entire plum world. Yuluo naturally could not find Sumo. With Sumo's current realm, if he wanted to hide in the wisdom world, even a cloth-clothed immortal lotus would not be able to find him. Sumo looked at Mei Jie and nodded with a smile. Then, he took out Xiao Huang's shadow from his storage bag. It was just a ball of light. Within the light, there was a shadow of Xiao Huang. However, his eyes were closed as if he was in a deep sleep. The reason why Sumo came this time was mainly to let Xiao Huang be reborn here. He and Wu Er had promised Yuluo that they would bring her a big gift. Xiao Huang's Dao shadow was their gift. Sumo held Xiao Huang's Dao shadow in her palm and blew a breath of immortal qi. There was a sudden gust of wind in the universe. A gust of wind brought Xiao Huang's shadow into the apricot world and into the roots of the apricot tree. Yuro, who had been meditating, couldn't help but open her eyes. She sensed something strange, because the tree behind her seemed to have a new aura. The branches and leaves of the plum tree shook, and the strange phenomenon dissipated. A faint lotus will actually emanated from the plum tree. At the same time, her heart skipped a beat. There seemed to be an aura that she was extremely familiar with, but she couldn't be sure. She couldn't believe it, because she sensed Xiao Huang's aura. Yuro, I brought back a trace of Xiao Huang's Dao shadow. Now, I infused him into the apricot tree and left a lotus will. 1,000 years later, he will awaken. Sumo's voice sounded. Godfather? Yuro recognized Sumo's voice. But her divine sense instantly spread out, but she couldn't find Sumo. Yuro understood that Sumo didn't want to show himself. At the same time, she knew that Sumo was already a Lotus Knight, or else he wouldn't have the Lotus Will. Thank you, Godfather. Yuro could only bow to the void. Then, she got up and caressed the apricot tree. Her eyes were filled with tears. Mei Lang, I will wait for you. Sumo looked at everything and nodded lightly. Then, he took a step towards the Kuin Butterfly Star Ocean. Lotus Knight Tier 7? It was almost unobstructed in the Izong world. At this time, Sumo deliberately spread out his aura so that the linen immortal lotus could sense his arrival. As expected, the moment Sumo arrived at the Kuan Butterfly Star Ocean, the linen immortal lotus was already waiting outside. Beside her, Kuan Wuying was still standing. "It's been a long time, Demon King." The linen immortal lotus smiled at Sumo. "Congratulations on reaching the Lotus Realm and forging the golden body of the Guardian King." Kuan Wuying greets the Demon King. Kuan Wuying said, "Greetings, Senior Immortal Lotus." Sumo bowed to the linen immortal lotus. Actually, with Sumo's current realm, there was no need to bow to the linen immortal lotus, but Sumo had always been grateful for his kindness in the past. "Greetings, Senior Sister Wuying." Sumo addressed Kuan Wuying from Wu Er's perspective. "Where's Wu Er?" the linen immortal lotus asked. "Senior, this is the reason why I'm here," Sumo said. The linen immortal lotus and Kuan Wuying looked at each other. "Demon King, this is not the place to talk. Please move to the Kuan Butterfly Palace," Kuan Wuying said. Thus, the three of them went straight to the Kuan Butterfly Palace. Inside the Kuan Butterfly Palace, Sumo directly took out Wu Er's physical body from her storage bag. Now, Sumo used a lotus leaf to support Wu Er's physical body. Her face was alive, and her breathing was steady, but she would not wake up. "What's going on?" the linen immortal lotus asked. Sumo briefly recounted everything that had happened in the past. "Her soul is in a mess and she can't wake up?" The linen immortal lotus frowned at Wu Er. Her realm was not as good as Sumo's, but her experience could be said to be better than Sumo's. This was because she had only managed to reach the Lotus Realm after countless years of hard work. Wu Er's state made her extremely worried. The linen immortal lotus felt that it was extremely likely that Wu Er would never wake up again, but she did not say anything. "That Southern Abyss Lotus Warrior asked me to drip a drop of Southern Abyss seawater every 100 years, and I have already done so. I only came here to ask Senior if there is any other way to wake her up, or if Wu Er has any memories of Mu Baimu while cultivating here all these years." Sumo finally said, "I am powerless to wake Wu Er up." The linen immortal lotus looked at Wu Er and sighed. But, regarding Mu Baimu, the linen immortal lotus frowned, as if recalling something. A glimmer of hope rose in Sumo's eyes. This was because he hoped to use Mu Baimu's matter to straighten out Wu Er's soul and wake her up. "Master, when junior apprentice Sister Wu Er first came to the Kuan Butterfly Star Ocean, she mentioned the name Mu Baimu," Kuan Wuying said. The linen immortal lotus also seemed to remember. "Wuying, are you talking about the time she almost suffered a cultivation deviation while cultivating?" "That's right," Kuan Wuying said. "When you first came to the Kuan Butterfly Star Ocean, you taught her the Kuan Butterfly art. In the end, it seemed to have stirred up her soul. Her divine sense was in chaos and she once shouted, 'Mu Baimu, kill me!' There was also the word Red Lotus. At that time, she repeatedly shouted and her emotions were stirred up." The linen immortal lotus nodded. Then, he said to Sumo, "That was the only time Wu Er mentioned Mu Baimu. But at that time, I was afraid that her divine soul would be damaged, so I directly suppressed her. That small fragment was also directly erased by me. Wu Er's memories were not complete. There were millions of years that were blank. But I believe that everything is related to Black Lotus, because Black Lotus once had a junior apprentice sister named Red Lotus." Sumo nodded heavily. "Since that's the case, then I will bid my farewells." Sumo directly put away Wu Er's body. "Demon King, where are you going?" the linen immortal lotus asked. "Heartless 3,000 worlds." Sumo's body moved and she directly left the Kuan Butterfly Star Ocean. But her voice continued, "Black Lotus will pay the price for everything he has done. He will definitely not be able to enter the true law world." Chapter 1053. Glaze World. Sumo stood in the middle of the galaxy. This time, he had entered Glaze World from the eastern purple galaxy. Actually, there was something else that Sumo had always been curious about. Xing Fei, Han Bingyi, Yu Qiumu, and the others had entered Glaze World many years ago, but they had not sent back any news. After those cultivators from the Three Realms galaxy entered the Glaze World, it was as if they had completely disappeared without a trace. Now, Sumo's divine sense could completely cover the entire Lazuli world. However, he still could not sense the existence of Xing Fei and the others. However, Sumo could sense the existence of the Black Lotus world. He was now a Stage 7 Lotus Knight. The entire dark world of Izong world was under the detection of his consciousness. The Black Lotus world was in the eastern purple galaxy. However, it was basically located in the central region of Glaze World. It had a star that accompanied it called Illusory Lotus. Illusory Lotus Planet. If Sumo wanted to enter the Black Lotus world, his first step was naturally to reach Illusory Lotus Planet. Thus, with a thought, Sumo appeared on Illusory Lotus Planet. Sumo's heart skipped a beat the moment he landed on the planet. This was because he actually had a rather familiar feeling towards this star. It seemed to be from a very long time ago. Originally, Sumo did not pay too much attention to it. He only wanted to enter the Black Lotus world through Illusory Lotus Planet and then go to the Heartless 3000 world. However, the sense of familiarity was extremely strong. At this moment, Sumo landed in an open field. There was nothing special in the surroundings. However, when Sumo's spiritual awareness carefully explored, his face could not help but change slightly. Nandue Prefecture? He was actually in the Nandue Prefecture where he used to be a beggar. This surprised Sumo greatly. Even he himself was a little shocked. What was going on? Sumo's consciousness instantly covered the entire Nandue Prefecture. Back then, Nandue Prefecture was not a small place to Sumo. He had stayed in Nandue Prefecture for 3 whole years. However, in Sumo's eyes, it couldn't even be considered a pill land. However, everything from the past had reappeared. Was it really Nandue Prefecture? Sumo carefully explored with her divine sense and found that everything here was almost the same as in the past. With a thought, Sumo appeared in Peach Blossom Town. Peach Blossom Town was still the same Peach Blossom Town. However, it seemed to be more prosperous than before. The dilapidated temple outside the town was still there. There were still many beggars around. Among them, there was an old beggar in his 60s or 70s. His clothes were ragged and unkempt as he squatted on an old stone block in front of the temple. Was he talking like a river? Spittle flew everywhere. The other beggars were fully focused? He listened in a daze. In the ancient world, there were mountains that were 100,000 zhang tall, straight into the clouds. The immortals on the mountain? Golden body 6 feet golden body, covered in golden light? It was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. A dragon is a horse and a tiger is a cat? Even phoenixes are considered poultry. An immortal's power is boundless? Riding on the clouds, their lifespan is 10,000 years. Spitting makes it rain, sneezing makes it thunder. A bite of that immortal peach can live for 3,600 years. A sip of that immortal wine? A mortal can be drunk for 360 days. A fairy can sleep with it. It's worth it even if I die. The old beggar laughed wretchedly and lasciviously. He wiped the saliva at the corner of his mouth with his dirty sleeve, as if he had slept with a fairy. Hee ha ha roar. At this moment the beggars all laughed, but the way they laughed was different. Looking at this scene, Sumo was a little absent-minded. The same scene? The same lines. Fortunately, he didn't see her. Except for Lao Xuantu in the middle? He had never seen the other beggars, otherwise he would have thought that he had completely returned to the past. But Lao Xuantu was indeed the same Lao Xuantu. Lao Shuantu looked up and saw Sumo. He smiled knowingly. Then he waved his hand. Today? Let's stop here. It's almost time for dinner. If we're late, we won't be able to eat. Disperse. Disperse. Roar. Many beggars dispersed in an uproar. The Sumo from back then was not among them. Everyone left in a hurry. Hee hee. Lao Shuantu dragged his shoes and walked to Sumo. How is it? Familiar, right? Familiar. He. Sumo laughed and said, Back then you tricked us like this. You're good at swindling people. Swindle and swindle. Old Xian was not happy when he heard this. Little Su, do you think my words were swindle and swindle and swindle and swindle? I, Lao Shuantu, have seen all kinds of immortals. I'm a grand cultivator. He. Sumo nodded. Now that you mention it, you're right. But I don't believe that you slept with a fairy. I don't want to sleep with them. Lao Shuantu looked proud and disdainful. Back then, there were more than 36,000 fairies waiting for me to sleep with. Lao Shuantu, I was taken away from here back then, right? Sumo interrupted him. Yes. Lao Shuantu nodded. That's right. Back then, when the immeasurable ship appeared, you were sucked into a special space-time by an extremely powerful force. That should be when AMU found me at the last moment of the seal. He wanted to help me awaken. Sumo said, I didn't expect that my dream back then would allow me to travel through so many worlds. No wonder when I searched for Peach Blossom Town in Nanyue Commandery on Pure Earth Star, no one had heard of this place. Lao Shuantu laughed and said, If you didn't attain the Great Tao, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to find this place back then. You were waiting for me? Sumo looked at Lao Shuantu and said, That's right. Lao Shuantu stopped smiling. You should know who I am, right? Bai Lai told me. Sumo nodded. You are Lysimachia chinensis. This hidden world was supposed to be controlled by you. Unfortunately, you gave it to the Black Lotus Heartless. However, the Black Lotus Heartless chose the opposite path. He wanted to use the hidden world to open the door to the true law realm. Hee hee. Lao Shuantu laughed bitterly. That's right. I was blind back then. Sumo looked at the ancient temple behind Lao Shuantu and said, This ancient temple is the door to the Black Lotus Dark World. Yes. Lao Shuantu nodded. You want to go to the Heartless Realm with me? Sumo said. Yes. Lao Shuantu nodded. Heartless will not turn back. Green Lotus has already fallen. Now, Heartless should have reached the Dharma Lotus King Zun realm. Even I am not his opponent. However, I can't let him do as he pleases. If I don't go to the Heartless realm, I won't be at ease. There's no point in being at ease. Sumo said. Haha. Lao Shuantu laughed and said, Don't worry. Little Su, my familiarity with the Heartless realm far surpasses yours. Moreover, as long as I go to the Heartless realm, I will definitely not let Heartless have an easy time. I understand him very well. The Black Lotus Dark World is under your control? Sumo asked again. Yes. Lao Shuantu said, Originally, this dark world was guarded by someone. However, I already expected that you would come sooner or later, so I have already swept away the power of the Black Lotus Dark World. Good. Sumo nodded. When you go to the Black Lotus Dark World, you will be able to see many friends. Lao Shuantu said. Who? Sumo blanked. You will know when you get there, Lao Shuantu said. Then, he turned around and brought Sumo into the broken temple. From other people's point of view, it was a broken temple. However, when Lao Shuantu and Sumo entered, it was a space-time door. Whoosh, with one step, they went straight to the Black Lotus Dark World. Chapter 1054. The Dark World was always accompanied by a star. The star of the Dark World was the illusory lotus. However, both the Dark World and the illusory Lotus Planet were already under Lao Shuantu's control. The Dark World wasn't very big. It was just a star. From the Black Lotus planet, the illusory Lotus planet was actually a gray planet. It hung to the south of the Black Lotus planet. It looked like a super gray sun. However, the Black Lotus world didn't have a sun. Right above it was a Black Lotus. The Black Lotus was larger than any that Sumo had seen before. It gave off a faint black light. However, its roots were entwined by rays of strange gray light. As a result, all of the black light had a tinge of gray in it. At this moment, Sumo and Lao Xuantu were standing at the peak of a mountain. Sumo looked at the Black Lotus and asked, "You control this Black Lotus?" "That's right." Lao Xuantu nodded. "This Black Lotus is the lifeline of the dark world. I bound its roots and infused my Lysimachia chinensis will into it. That's why I can control the dark world. Now, it looks like a dark world, but it's not. Doesn't Heartless know?" Sumo asked. Lao Xuantu said, "How could he not know? This dark world is the dark world that he values the most. However, I'm here to guard it, so he won't come easily. I don't think he's willing to face me unless it's absolutely necessary. What's more, he lost Taoist corpse and has to guard Heartless world. He probably doesn't have the time to care about this place." Sumo nodded. "Little Su, my relationship with the Black Lotus world is like the relationship between the illusory Lotus world and the Black Lotus world. Back then, I was the eldest senior brother. I was willing to stand in front of everything. Without me, he wouldn't be where he is now. I just didn't expect that I misjudged Heartless world." "He actually wants to bet the entire hidden world?" Lao Xuantu sighed. "It's just a different path." Sumo sneered. Perhaps, from the perspective of Heartless, he didn't do anything wrong. Because he believed that as long as he was here, Izong would be here. "Oh!" Lao Xuantu couldn't help but look at Sumo in surprise. Sumo shook her head and laughed. "Don't be surprised. Back then, when I was in the Three Realms, I thought the same. Ants, just listen to my arrangements. However, am I enlightened now? Every life had its own meaning of existence. They should all have the right to choose and not be someone else's puppet. Pity? Heartless may not see as clearly as I do. A lot of things you can only understand after experiencing it." Lao Xuantu nodded and laughed dryly. Sumo was absolutely right. Heartless was already at the Dharmarian King realm. But Lao Xuantu really couldn't tell. Did he not understand Sumo's words? Or did he understand it too deeply? The two didn't continue this topic. Lao Xuantu brought Sumo directly to a continent on the Black Lotus planet. It was a black continent? Looking down from the void, it was in the shape of a lotus. However, there was a layer of gray mist covering the continent. This continent is called the Black Lotus continent. The spiritual energy of the Black Lotus in the void? It goes straight here. It was originally the place where the Black Lotus cultivators were trained. Lao Xuantu pointed at the continent. "However, I've already purified it. Many of your old friends are cultivating here. They were all led here by me." Sumo looked down and saw Han Bingyi, Long Xie, Yu Qiumu, Gan Tianqing, Yi Xingbai, Bai Wuming, Mo Wuhan, and others. They had their own cave abodes on the Black Lotus continent and cultivated separately. "No wonder? I haven't received any news from them," Sumo said. "So, they're all trapped here by you to cultivate?" Lao Xuantu laughed. "There's no other way. They all have an obsession in their hearts. However, with their cultivation, only death awaits them if they try to find Mu. What if I don't trap them here? I'm afraid they would have become puppets of the Taoist Wu Corp. I just don't want them to die." "Thank you." Sumo cupped her hands at Lao Xuantu. "However, I trapped these people, but one escaped," Lao Xuantu said helplessly. "He's a silver-haired cultivator in white. His physique and cultivation technique are extremely special. Actually, he's not a lotus cultivator yet, but I couldn't trap him. My spells are useless against him. His name is Xing Fei." Sumo smiled with a complicated expression. His true form is a beam of white light. At the same time, he's an infinite reincarnator. The two rays of light in the vast sea were always unexpected existences. You, a top-notch lotus cultivator, can't trap him. I have a feeling that the cultivator in white is outside of Haoyu's nomological laws. Lao Xuantu said. Sumo nodded and said nothing more. Azure Demon and Xing Fei were existences that he couldn't see through. Everything about them seemed to be endless. Little Su, are you going to take a look at the Black Lotus continent? Lao Xuantu asked. No need. Sumo shook her head. Let them cultivate here peacefully. The Heartless Realm is a dangerous place. Even you and I might not be able to escape unscathed, let alone them. Lao Xuantu nodded. Then let's get ready to go. Okay. Sumo replied. You should be able to open the door to the Heartless Realm, right? Of course. Lao Xuantu chuckled. Then, he made a hand seal in the void. This was the first time Sumo saw Lao Xuantu make a hand seal. She recalled that Sumo really asked him for 3 years of rice in the past. The past was like a dream and ridiculous. The hand seal in Lao Xuantu's hand was the lotus seal. Instantly, his body emitted an endless gray aura. At the same time, a ball of mysterious light lit up between his eyebrows. Within the mysterious light, a black lotus appeared. It seemed that Lao Xuantu could completely imitate an existence like the black lotus. Whoosh, whoosh, there was a sudden fluctuation in the void. It was as if a door of waves had opened. A vortex appeared under their feet. It was filled with black light. The realm gate is open. Little Su, come with me. Lao Xuantu's aura had completely changed. With one step, he stepped into the black vortex. Sumo followed closely behind. The Lotus Scholar realm could be said to be one step into the starry sky. With one step, Sumo followed Lao Xuantu into another dimension, the Heartless 3000 realms. Whoosh, before, the scenery in front of Sumo had completely disappeared. In front of him, there was an empty starry sky. However, the starry sky here was somewhat different from the Yizong realm. Although the starry sky of the Yizong realm was empty, it was not cold. However, the starry sky of the Heartless 3000 realms was not only empty, but also cold. Extremely cold. The Heartless realm seemed to be a world without any temperature. All the warmth in this world seemed to have been sucked dry by some kind of power. Lao Xuantu stood in front of Sumo's left, and the 7 or 8 stars that Sumo could see were all worlds completely covered in ice and snow. Heartless. Heartless. You actually turned this place into this. Lao Xuantu narrowed his eyes. He did not seem to expect the Heartless realm to be like this. The moment Sumo and Lao Xuantu appeared in the Heartless realm, a cultivator on a mountain peak in the Heartless realm slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was ice-cold. Chapter 1055. The Heartless Realm contains 3,000 lesser worlds, hence it is also known as the Heartless 3000 world. This kind of world is not considered big when compared to the Yizong realm. A star zone of the Pure Land realm is already lacking in possessing these lesser worlds. However, the Heartless realm is different from the Yizong realm. Its spiritual energy is extremely abundant, but it seems to be converging towards the center of this world. It has the feeling of 100 rivers returning to the sea. There is an invisible force controlling everything. The Heartless realm in my memory is not like this. Lao Xuantu sighs. What was it like in the past? Sumo asked. The myriad worlds are resplendent, full of vitality. The stars twinkle, the country is prosperous, and the people are at peace. Lao Xuantu says slowly, Heartless is indeed not the Heartless realm of the past. Sumo shakes her head. The Heartless realm no longer has anyone else in its eyes. In its eyes, there is only itself and the true law. Everything is his bargaining chip. As long as he can open the door to the true law, he no longer has any scruples. The Heartless Realm, and even the Izong Realm, are all his tools. Lao Xuantu nods his head silently. This world can block our divine sense? Sumo frowns, because he discovered that his divine sense can only extend for about 1,000,000 li. If it is the Izong Realm, with his cultivation of the 7th stage of the Lotus Realm, he can completely cover a mid-level world, let alone an existence the size of a star zone. Yes, Lao Xuantu says helplessly, you must know, in this Heartless Realm, there is a Dharma Lotus Venerable Realm cultivator. Although his position as the Izong Dharma Emperor is not completely recognized, there is no doubt about his Heartless Realm. Therefore, in this world, our divine sense will be suppressed. Sumo nods her head when she hears this. Little Su Zi, it is not a problem if you want to save AMU. However, in this heartless world, every step we take has to be carefully planned and carefully planned. Lao Xuantu says, although the headless Taoist is dead, and the black blind man is no match for us, but there must be a top-notch Lotus Knight hidden in the Heartless Realm. With my understanding of Heartless, he won't play all his cards. The headless Taoist and the black blind man are only his forces on paper. There must be hidden experts under Heartless. Old Xian. Sumo felt that this was the most comfortable way to address him. I heard that you had a total of 5 senior martial brothers. Besides you, Black Lotus and Green Lotus, what about the other 2? Red Lotus and the Red Lotus. One of them is my 3rd junior brother, and the other is my 4th junior sister. Old Profound couldn't help but let out a long sigh when he heard Sumo's question. Lotus? Red Lotus? Red Lotus? Sumo's heart skipped a beat when she hears the words Red Lotus. Because the Bai Immortal Lotus said that Wu Er once mentioned Red Lotus. Where are they? Green Lotus Seed has already died in the hidden world. Why haven't Hong Lian and Zi Lian appeared despite such a huge commotion? They've been missing for many years. Lao Xuantu says, I reckon they've most likely died. Back then, they were very close to me. If they hadn't died, there would be no news of them. What are their realms? Sumo asks again. Millions of years ago, they were all Lotus Knight Stage 7. Lao Xuantu says, among the 5 of us, junior brother Green Lotus Seed's realm is the weakest. Out of the other 4, my realm was originally the highest, so naturally Heartless Realm is the highest. How can a Lotus Knight Stage 7 die without a trace? Sumo frowns. Perhaps they're all in this Heartless Realm? Their disappearance must have something to do with the Black Lotus. Lao Xuantu is slightly stunned. Because, to them, this might be a hidden world, the only place you can't find. Sumo says. Definitely not. Lao Xuantu shakes his head. They definitely won't become heartless minions. Red Lotus and Zillion, they won't disregard the hidden world for the sake of the true law realm. Sumo smiles faintly. Lao Xuantu, your heart is too kind sometimes. A cultivator's pursuit of realms is like a mortal's pursuit of longevity. As long as there's a chance, most people are willing to try and even take risks out of desperation. You're wrong about Heartless Realm, but you might not be wrong about Red Lotus and Zillion. After hearing Sumo's words, Lao Xuantu is speechless for a long time. Because an ominous feeling rises in his heart. Actually, he once had the same thoughts as Sumo. After all, Red Lotus and Zillion's disappearance is very strange. It's just that, in his heart, he is unwilling to admit it. Different paths, there's no right or wrong. Sumo takes a deep breath. Standing on different standpoints, sometimes we can only fight. Peace is usually after war. Lao Xuantu nods slowly. He likes to play games, he doesn't like fighting. However, he naturally understands the logic of Sumo's words. Heartless Mountain is in the center of Heartless Realm. It is a mountain so high that its peak cannot be seen, and its entire body is black. Beyond the mountain is a sea, and the sea is red. Someone once said, Heartless Realm's Heartless Mountain is very similar to White Mountain. It's just that their colors are different, but the layout is very similar. The main peak of Heartless Mountain is naturally Heartless Peak. In addition to the main peak of Heartless Peak, there are 4 other peaks around it. The distance between them and Heartless Peak is in the tens of thousands of miles. Naturally, their height cannot be compared to Heartless Peak. The 5 peaks together form a small world, and this small world is also the existence of the entire 3,000 world of Heartless Realm that has not been frozen. As soon as Sumo and Lao Xuantu enter Heartless Realm, the male cultivator on the peak facing them opens his eyes. It is a cultivator wearing a red robe. He has long brown hair. His red robe is like blood. However, that male cultivator's face is somewhat pale, it is a kind of sickly white. Lysimachia chinensis. The male cultivator's gaze is cold. It seems that Taoist Corpse and Black Blind were unable to stop Izong. The people from the outside have entered. Heartless Realm, you also dare to enter? At this moment, there is a slight fluctuation in the void. A black bird appears in the void. That bird is very unique. Its wingspan is at least 1 zhang. Cat head, fangs, blood eyes. The most unique thing is that it actually has a long tail with a hook. Black catbird. The male cultivator in red was originally sitting cross-legged, but upon seeing the black catbird, he actually stood up and bowed deeply towards the black catbird. Heartless Realm Eastern Guardian, heed my order. The black catbird actually speaks in human language. Its voice is actually very pleasant to the ear, as if it has a myriad of magical powers. Here is Hong Yi. The male cultivator in red has a solemn expression. The king has ordered. Within the Heartless Realm, there is an invasion of otherworldly cultivators. I specially order the Eastern Guardian to lead your 3,000 Red Devil army to fight against the enemy, said the black catbird. What should we do with Lysimachia chinensis? Asked Hong Yi. Kill without mercy. The black catbird's voice is pleasant to the ear and heartless. As you command. Hong Yi once again bowed deeply towards the black catbird. The black catbird is the Black Lotus spirit beast. The arrival of the black catbird is like the arrival of the king. Without any hesitation, Hong Yi waved his long sleeves and directly went down the mountain. Whoosh, looking again, 3,000 red clouds directly surged from the mountain peak, following closely behind. Hong Yi going to war is the first time in 10,000 years. On the Heartless Peak, the Black Lotus's heartless voice muttered to himself, Eldest senior brother, die. Because you have already gone against the will of Heavenly Venerable Great Lotus. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.